Here's what actually happened.
The foundation of all knowledge.
I'm really mad that
what difference does it make, right? What
Stop.
the deregulation of the industry is obviously going to cause more of that industry.
And to lubricate the trust connection between people until they have enough.
Yet we could still look at biological reality in determining who's a female, even if there are.
Why don't you denounce feminism the same way you're denouncing capitalism? If you don't...
For something to be objective, it needs to be verifiable. And you can't verify...
If I make a claim as a political pundit, it is true that I definitely could be wrong.
Yeah,
you're promoting, right?
Ideologies that make them politics, right? This is my ideology.
Yeah, but...
So, 2015, anyone go back and watch the footage? The first GOP debate.
Cool. Okay. Oh, that? With a Trey Bar, you say?
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I am Sarah the Raging Tomato, bringing to you live another Moderator Monday. This evening, I have Ryan the Radical Coder, Ghosty, 6 Hosty, Cleaner 409. I always wanted to wondered if you named it after the actual spray cleaner. And Paige, of course, our lovely Paige joining us this evening. The question that is asked, or I guess the statement more so, is society should acknowledge, tolerate, and even accept female promiscuity. I'm ready to kick this off. Ryan, would you give your opening statement, please?
Sure thing. Promiscuous girl, wherever you are, I'm all alone, and it's you that I want. Promiscuous boy, you already know that I'm all yours. What you waiting for? Oh, I'm sorry. That's the iconic song "Promiscuous" by Nelly Furtado. Look, I hate women as much as the next guy. Oh shit, I'm sorry, that's my diary. Okay. Before I get into the prompt, I want to take a moment to set the scene. We are having this debate just hours after the President of the United States called for an immediate evacuation of Tehran, a capital city of 9 million people, and issued escalating threats against U.S. cities led by political opposition. In a moment where human freedom and bodily autonomy are under global attack, we're here debating whether women should be shamed for having consensual sex. So let's get to it. The prompt tonight is, should society acknowledge and accept female promiscuity? And what's the alternative? Stigmatizing it. And what is stigma for? Well, we use it to disincentivize behavior. We label something shameful, dangerous, or undesirable, hoping it will go away. But here's the questions. Does female promiscuity actually cause harm? And just as importantly, does the stigma cause harm? Because this debate isn't just about the risk, it's about discomfort with women choosing sex on their own terms. Let's start with some data. Vrangelova, I don't even know how to say this name, but Vrangelova and Ong in a 2014 paper found that women who wanted casual sex and enjoyed it reported higher self-esteem, less depression, and greater well-being. Regret only showed up when the sex was coerced, unsatisfying, or soaked in shame. So the harm doesn't seem to come from sex, it comes from the context, from how others respond to women's autonomy. What about biology? Well, Galperin and friends claim that women regret casual sex more because of evolutionary reproductive pressures. But newer studies, like the Norwegian regret study, show otherwise. Regret isn't about ovaries or Stone Age instincts. It's about low sexual satisfaction and misalignment with personal values. If she wanted it and it was good, she almost never regrets it. So where does the harm come from? From how society treats women who have sex. In a 2023 hiring bias study, women perceived as promiscuous were rated less competent, seen as less trustworthy, and considered less hireable, not because they lacked any skill, but because they violated an unspoken purity rule. That stigma is costing women real opportunities. Now, where does this stigma come from? According to the economist Anki Becker, in a 2024 paper, the harshest anti-promiscuity norms come from pastoralist societies where men were gone for long stretches, and to guarantee paternity, they needed to lock down female sexuality. That control hardened into anti-abortion laws, modesty culture, mobility restrictions, and yes, even genital mutilation in some cases. Not to protect women, obviously, but to monitor them. And yes, some women help enforce it too. Intrasexual competition is women shaming other women to gain power in a male-dominated system. Right, Paige? You don't have to be a man to uphold patriarchy. You just have to be willing to police other women's freedom. And the consequences are measurable. One study found that perceived stigma, not shame, not risk, but just the fear of being judged, cut STI testing rates nearly in half for both men and women. So let's be clear that shame is not protecting people, it's silencing them. Final words. Female promiscuity does not hurt women. Punishing them for it does. If you care about health, dignity, or safety, stop defending shame, stop pretending that stigma is neutral, and ask who benefits from keeping women quiet, scared, and small. Because the danger is obviously not women having too much sex. It's a culture that punishes them for choosing it.
Thank you, Ryan. Ghosty to you.
Okay, so my opening statement covers some adult topics, so hopefully everybody in the chat can be all adults here about this, but the debate prompt states, should female promiscuity be tolerated, acknowledged, or even accepted? For decades, male promiscuity has been tolerated, acknowledged, and accepted, sometimes even infidelity, and sometimes even tolerated, acknowledged, and accepted by their own wives. I know many will argue, well, men and women are different. But when we look at divorce rates compared to how many sexual partners somebody has, male and female data is almost identical, only off by a percentage point or two. This data is often misused in this context to make a point that the more sexual partners someone has, the more likely they will end up in an unsatisfactory marriage or divorce. But the same data disproves this. Women who had 2 sexual partners before marrying have higher divorce rates than women with 3 to 9 sexual partners. And in the 80s and 90s, women with 2 partners had higher divorce rates than women with 10 or more partners. This disproves that the amount of sexual partners correlates to divorce rates. Plus, even if we ignore the 2-partner data, none of this research shows that the amount of sexual partners is the causal factor for divorce rates. There are many better explanations for this data, including religion, personality types, childhood environmental factors, and much more. Shaming or slut-shaming does not prevent women from being promiscuous. Although shaming can be useful in some instances, it is rarely a preventative. People usually just end up hiding these things or being untruthful about them. We can shame drug addicts all we want, but that doesn't stop them from doing drugs. It only causes addicts who need help to continue to hide and lie about their addiction. This is the same for female promiscuity. And this hiding or untruthfulness leads to all sorts of problems, such as confusion between men and women in certain dating circumstances. Women lie about their body counts or say no when they mean yes, causing a lot of confusion for guys, and sometimes leads to some guys always thinking no actually does mean yes, when really sometimes no just means no. But sometimes it's hard to tell if women feel too ashamed to tell him yes right away because she doesn't want to come off as too easy. Sorry about him in the background. There are a lot of other issues that come from shaming women's sexual freedom, especially in younger and experienced women and girls. Some women feel pressured to stay with her boyfriend after she slept with him just because society tells her she has less value now. She might feel worthless or used up after sleeping with one boyfriend. The likeliness of marrying your first boyfriend or first sexual partner is extremely low and should not be recognized as something normal or right. There's also the issue of female orgasms and how less common this occurs compared to men. Some men don't believe in female orgasms or even prioritize them. Women are taught to feel ashamed for experimenting with self-pleasure. Meanwhile, teenage boys are usually get a talk to learn how to flush it down the toilet or something like this, and it's totally normalized. A healthy sex life is critical to a healthy relationship, and this kind of unacceptance of female sexuality has been affecting relationships and marriages negatively for decades or longer. And yeah, there's a lot more stuff, but that's my opening statement.
Thank you, Ghosty. Cleaner to you, and I did mute you just because the noise. You'll have to unmute.
All right.
Paige and I will be destroying our opposition by showing their support of the following societally destructive concepts during the debate. Populace-level behavioral modification, a concept of modifying a population's perceived less intelligent people's beliefs through usage of miswording rhetoric. An example, Cardi B says, "I am a strong, independent women." She uses women instead of woman, creating a subconscious push in a singular woman's mind to join the sisterhood hive mind in support of women. Single vector oppositional brainwashing, setting the prompt and then building evidence around the prompt that only supports the prompt while ignoring all credible sources that are against the prompt, or discounting those sources by saying, "I will have to research or read that evidence, study, or data later." Emotional dysregulation, not being able to control one's personal emotions, allowing clouding of judgment and the logical thinking processes. Salvation whitewash concept, and this is the most important one for this debate, believing that through forcing a population to accept a worldview that does not shame or demonize a negative behavior, you can manipulate the populace into performatively accepting a world that is less restrictive on negative behaviors, increasing your personal acceptance and status by that populace. The concept of promiscuity is a strong correlate for behavior that has led to the higher moral superiority of women no longer being an understood norm for the general population. An example of this is women in the past being able to voice concerns in various ways to get specific pubs or bars shut down temporarily or permanently because they were morally destructive for the community. Nowadays, if a woman or a group of women voices a moral concern, the vast population laughs at the women and does not take them seriously. Female promiscuity enforces the objectivity mindset that women have no emotional or intangible value because they only see themselves as a sexual object. This is a concept that higher moral women fought against for a very long portion of human history and has only recently become a concept that small portions of socially popular women have adopted and pushed on others. In the past, women used to be the prize in the mind of the man because she was a good woman. Women engaging in men's most demonized and negative behaviors has created a society that views women as not the prize in men's minds anymore and equal to the most disgusting and degenerate of men in society, thus making women generally seen as less than human and only a sex object.
You're muted, Sarah.
Thank you. I apologize. Cleaner, I do think you're visually frozen. We could still hear everything, but yeah, it's okay. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. Paige, the floor is open to you.
Alrighty. The prompt today is whether or not society should acknowledge, accept, and even tolerate female promiscuity. In short, my position on all three is a capital N-O. This is because doing so would ultimately lead, and does lead currently, to the extent this is true in modernity, to bad outcomes for society. Shocker. I will illustrate that the only people who benefit from female promiscuity are those who gain financially from it, such as those in the sex industry, or to be blunt, people who just want to see the world burn. We know statistically that since the popularization of promiscuity, in particular expanded access to the porn industry and formats such as OF, that loneliness is on the rise. And this is not just amongst women, but it is also amongst men. For instance, the men going their own way movement gained popularity initially as early as 2000, and it doesn't show any signs of stopping. This is because men have an intrinsic biological desire to, oh my gosh, secure paternity. This becomes increasingly more difficult when a woman has exhibited promiscuous behaviors, such as sleeping around, holding a roster, or being involved in the sex industry. The fact that a higher rate of female promiscuity is correlated with lower rates of marriage is hardly coincidental. There is also the matter of happiness in correlation with female promiscuity. We see this via former sex workers who make videos online about how their life now is ruined following their foray into the sex industry, and how now they are not only unable to have romantic relationships, but they also have what's called a public reputation crisis. For example, the former wife to Hugh Hefner and Playboy bunny Crystal Hefner and her housemate Holly Madison, who have both been very public about their time with Playboy being a negative experience, or Julia Fox, a now actress and model who was a sex worker as young as college, who has openly discouraged women from embarking upon the career. Generally, these women are not viewed favorably after they reach a certain age and are no longer in demand for the very thing they made their fleeting money on, or at the very least have deep-seated regrets which followed them throughout their life. I want to remind the audience that this prompt is about whether or not society should attribute these things to a positive outcome, not whether or not it is good for Sophie Rain that she makes $40 million a year on OF, or great for Bonnie Blue that she bought a customized Lamborghini recently. These are individualistic benefits and not applicable to the prompt. An individual woman's satisfaction as to whether or not promiscuity benefits her is not relevant to whether or not that promiscuity results in better outcomes for society. I challenge my opponents to bring forth any legitimate claims as to how society benefits from female promiscuity and why it should give female promiscuity the go-ahead, other than that women who engage with this behavior may feel less shame if we give them the go-ahead socially and are thus more likely to continue in their promiscuity, thus compounding the issue. That's my opening.
Thank you, Paige. And as a kind reminder to the audience, we will get through our open dialogue at around 11:15. We'll move into closing statements. We will read and respond to all of your kind super chats. And then, of course, our favorite part of the evening, we will move into open panel dumpster fire where you, the audience, can jump on, ask your questions, and have some fun. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave the floor open to you.
You want to start, Ghosty, or do you want me to dive in?
I just wanted to respond really quick to something Paige was saying, and it had to do with your opening statement, Ryan. The reason that these sex workers, the majority reason for why the sex workers say they end up regretting it or they're unhappy in life is because of the unacceptance and intolerance of female promiscuity in society. So there's a lot of people who just judge them, shame them, call them names, all this shit, and they have to live with that for their life because of the unacceptance. So it's not because it's not the actual sex work that's making them unhappy.
Yeah, and I'll actually piggyback on that because there's actually two parts to what I'm pointing out there, and it has to do with the social shame around people after experiencing or after like having sex, and also additionally whether or not they're like enjoying or consenting or like willing to do what they are doing in the first place. So a lot of sex workers also obviously have horror stories of being coerced into really disgusting situations, and that is obviously not going to make them feel very good afterwards either. So yeah, both of these are not attributed to promiscuity; they are attributed to men taking advantage of women and social shame surrounding it.
2 points on that, if I can start. Unless Cleaner, you wanted to go first.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So just on the first point with respect to shame, so I don't think either of you are going to deny that sexual promiscuity is at an all-time low in terms of shame compared to what it was in, the 60s, the 50s, or, if we're going as back as far as medieval times when a woman's virginity was prized as like the one thing she had to have going into a marriage. Women that were, like, for lack of a better word, loose, were openly shamed around town, and it was a lot less common back then. I don't think that there is necessarily a bad thing about shame when it results to positive societal outcomes, which is again what we're talking about here. We're not talking about whether Becky feels a bit less, conscious of the fact that nobody's going around calling her the town bicycle in high school because she slept with 9 guys in her grade. We're talking about whether or not Becky ends up with a good life outcome after that, after people have been talking about her high school experience for most of her 20s. And with respect to the point of exploitation, I think the encouragement of this industry just adds to that more. We know that specifically human trafficking is directly related to the corn industry. This is something that popularizing it and allowing for more avenues to it does actually result in an increase. I don't see how it could not. It's just a statistical point. So that would be my position on those two. And I'm welcome to hear counters, but Cleaner, you might have something to say on it, right?
Yeah, I'm a little curious if you two are familiar with Layla Micklethwait. Do you know who that is? You know who she is?
Nope.
No.
She's a lawyer that for about the past 6 or 7 years now has been trying to get all of the snafficking removed from corn sites, and the highest one that she's been trying to get it removed from was Cornhub. So they've lost over 97% of their content because 97% of their content was found to be illegal. And because of the promiscuity of women, the places that they put themselves in, they made themselves a lot easier to be targeted by these nefarious men that would do this, or women, whichever it is that's doing it to them.
And just to add on that really quick too, in terms of the benefit, the net benefit to women that are engaging in OF, like a lot of these creators are not Sophie Rain or Bonnie Blue. They're people that literally have like $500 a month, and those photos, those videos are out there forever.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
well,
Are we saying that not all jobs have like consequences? You know what I mean? Like
Not like that.
Also, the topic's not sex work, right? It's about promiscuity generally.
Yeah. True, but like also sometimes
Yeah,
working in
sex work
service
would
work
deal
could
with
be
promiscuity.
just as degrading as sex work, to be honest. Like it depends like if you enjoy what you're doing. Now, if you're doing it just because you're in a hard spot and you really need money and you don't actually want to do sex work, that's a different situation. But if you're actually doing it because you enjoy it, maybe you don't make $6,000 a month or something, but you make an average living, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just like any other job, and certain jobs have certain hazards. So I don't know, like obviously we want to stop trafficking, but again, I don't think that has anything to do with female promiscuity.
What
and
if
it sounds like you
everyone
said
did that?
there's a huge amount. You said there's a huge amount of content that's been removed. So it sounds like we're moving in the right direction, getting rid of a lot of the content that people didn't consent to being posted. Sounds like the processes are starting to be in place, so more people are protected. That's a good thing, right?
Right, because there's a massive pushback against the promiscuous behavior, the porn industry and promiscuous behavior in general.
There's
that's
pushback
happening.
against illegal trafficking behavior. That's the pushback.
No,
Yeah,
that's
and I don't
not
think
the
it's
only
I think it's like
pushback.
feminists and stuff who are
I mean, you can
like,
make
the
an
front lines of this.
assumption because you probably
Yeah.
haven't read any of the articles that we've read or done any of the research we've done. That just leads back to what I was talking about earlier, which is your confirmation bias. You're only going to look up data that has to do specifically with your side of things. You're not going to look up.
I looked up
I looked
opposite
up
opposing
research
data
on both sides so that
Me
I
too.
try and have an understanding of what it is that you would be talking about and whether or not you would have any good points.
Yeah, I searched kind of neutrally, and it just seems like it leaned towards what I'm saying here, like almost overwhelmingly, I would argue.
I looked up opposing data as well, and yeah, there just wasn't a lot to back it up. It like when we're talking about the marriage rates, like there might be a correlation, but again, because of the women who had 2 partners before marrying is higher anyways, that like there really isn't a correlation. But even if you ignore that, that's not a causal factor. Correlation does not always equal causal, and there's none of the research proves that having more sexual partners leads to not being able to pair bond or higher, like that's the cause for the higher divorce rates. It's usually a personality type issue or religion usually keeps people together. That's why you see like virgin marriages staying together more than anybody else.
I understand the concept you're talking about, and I wouldn't even say that like when we're talking about social concepts, all right, there's 2 different sides of society that are created, all right. Generally speaking, men create like the infrastructure and whatnot. Women create the social norms, the things that create society, bring happiness to people, fulfillment to lives outside of just building shit, which is what men generally do. We're very fact driven. Women build the societal side. When women,
I feel like men are often in positions of leadership, right? So generally, they're like way more often than women.
Yeah, that's
so
a part of the building and construction side of things, though, Ryan.
I just feel like that's way overgeneralized to the point where
when you say building,
and I'm saying a generalization, not saying there aren't exceptions to the
no,
rule.
but it's not even that
it's
exceptions.
But
it's overgeneralized to the point where it doesn't map on the reality.
Here, what a lot of people and even feminists have misunderstood here, all right, men have preferences. Generally speaking, the vast majority of men don't want a woman that's been promiscuous, or they don't want to know she's been promiscuous. They don't want to think about it because there's a concept of jealousy that happens within a man. All right, we can create our own type of internal dialogue, monologue, video log of what's gone on in a woman's past when she starts telling us shit that we don't want to fucking know. Okay, so seeing women that are doing this kind of thing, running around doing this kind of stuff, doesn't necessarily reinforce that for the male side. For the female side, it makes you feel more like you're in your sexuality, which you may view as a good thing, but it isn't necessarily making you viewed more as a sexual object instead of a woman who has feelings, thoughts, emotions, values that are intangible.
That's
Ghosty, you said that we don't have any stats.
That is you objectifying women. She is not objectifying herself. That is what you are
when you're
doing.
putting yourself out there as a sexual object, you are.
She's not putting herself out there as a
objectifying
sexual
yourself.
object. She's having sex because she wants to have sex. You
That's
are
literally
objecting.
what she's doing, is putting herself out. How is it anything? How is she not a sexual object?
Because
I don't understand. You don't see the logic.
So when you
behind
have
that.
sex, when you have sex with somebody, if you have sex with somebody, you just think of that person as a sexual object. Is that how you view people when you have sex?
Well, yeah, I'm a man. If I'm just having sex with a woman for one night,
I'm also a man.
I mean, she's just a woman for a night.
Yeah,
you want the truth? Do you want to hear the truth, or do you want me to sugarcoat some bullshit for you?
Well, again, this is
Men and
you.
women operate differently, and this is the thing that you guys aren't understanding.
No, I do understand, but my point
you.
is that this is you specifically, because not all men do this. This is you specifically objectifying the woman. She's not objectifying herself. She's having sex because she wants to have sex. You're just an asshole who's looking at her as an object, and she doesn't give a fuck.
Performatively prove to you that all men have an understanding of this concept, and all men have, to some degree, a thought of this concept. There are two types of women in the world that men know about: Friday night girls and relationship girls.
Okay, and
Have you never heard anything close to that?
Of course I have. Women have relationships and women have casual sex. What is
Generally
your
understood
point?
concept by men. Do you know why this concept is there? This concept is there because you have two types of women. Women who are loyal because they have a lower body count. They've actually stayed in relationships longer, or they're on their first relationship with you. They've proven their loyalty.
Okay, I'm not
so you
in
can look
sixth
at their
grade.
behavior from their
I don't know why you
past.
keep repeating the same thing. Like we
Why is the
understand
trope
what
of
you're
Madonna
talking
and the
about.
whore so old? Why has this been a trope that's been portrayed throughout society forever? Is it because it's just completely false?
I don't know that trope, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess you didn't take history as much as I did. But anyway, you asked for statistics based on marriage correlation to promiscuity. I actually do have one. The study is called "Does a Longer Sexual Resume Affect Marriage Rates?" and it's by Nicholas H. Wolfinger, University of Utah, and Samuel L. Perry of the University of
Yeah, I read
Oklahoma.
that one.
Yeah, great. Well, then you know that it says that the women that report more sex partners are less likely to get married. So what would be, let me just put it to you this way. What would be the
It's a
harm
Mormon
if
school,
they didn't do OF, if they weren't like whoring around, if they didn't have a party face? What would be the harm to society?
What would be the harm if they did?
I don't know, if they
That
all
wasn't the
engaged in
question.
it.
Yeah, if they engage in
That
it, then
wasn't
it's
the
harm.
question.
That's very circular. There's like you
It sounds
didn't
like a
give a
lot of this-
reason.
Yeah,
Sounds like a lot of this
question
being
was
framed
the
as, like-
question was,
hang on.
why is
Like, a lot of this
promiscuity
seems to be-
good? Like, how can you
Yeah.
how can you show us that promiscuity is a thing that we should accept within women in society?
Because we're. Oh, sorry. You go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's. I don't think we have to prove that it's good. I think we would start from a position that it's neutral, and we generally accept things that are neutral, and then from there, if you present some harm, then we could talk about whether we should shame it. But I believe it's a neutral thing.
No. You're on the affirmative. You're on the affirmative. Your job is to defend your viewpoint. We are asking you
I
like
understand. I am.
concrete questions. So answer the
Yeah,
question.
so our position is not to promote promiscuity, but our position is that if a woman wants to be promiscuous and sleep around, there's nothing wrong with that. She's not causing any harm. And even in your position to say that, oh, she's not going to get married, maybe she doesn't want to get married. Like, is that really harming? How much is that harming? So, I don't know.
online.
And plus,
She's-
plenty of promiscuous women do get married. There is no harm.
This is promoted even more. We know now online, these promiscuous lifestyles, especially when a woman is involved in OF. Young girls are seeing this. A classic example of this is the Bop House, which is literally an OF creator's house. There are women as young as 14 and 15 and 16 that will try out for this OF creator house on TikTok, doing their own specific Bop House audition. This is like, you can't tell
Okay,
me.
those are minors. That's
Exactly,
like much
that's the
different from
problem.
an adult
Defending that.
female. First of all, can we also define promiscuous? Like, what are you guys considering promiscuous? Like sleeping outside of marriage, having sex outside of marriage, sleeping with more than 3 people, like OnlyFans. What is your promiscuity level?
Yeah, because even like a lot of OnlyFans creators either just make solo content or have sex with like one person exclusively. So
Still
I
skankery.
don't know why they would count as. promiscuous.
I agree. My definition is pretty simple. High body count, so like over 10. A woman who sleeps around, a woman who acquires a large amount of sexual partners in a short time span, i.e. 2 to 3 years. A woman who dates multiple men or sleeps with multiple men at the same time, informally called a roster, or somebody who sells her promiscuity online in any way, shape, or form.
I would just sum it up with a simple: having or characterized by many transient sexual relationships. This would include the corn industry as well, by the way. That's why that was brought up.
Okay, and again, so what is a direct harm? That they're not getting married, or they're buying Lambos or something? What?
They're not.
No, I'm not saying that they should get married, because I don't think secularists should get married. There's no value to it for secularists at all. There's no reasoning behind it.
So what's the harm?
There's tax benefits, but
yeah, the tax benefits really aren't that high in court. Like when you look at the negatives, no, you're actually losing a hell of a lot more than you'll be gaining from a few extra hundred every yead from tax benefits.
If you have children with somebody,
levels,
it's beneficial to get married. There's like other benefits.
No, actually, head of household can actually make more than a married couple whenever you have children together and you're filing taxes. So there's really no reason to get married.
Okay, so what's the harm then?
It depends on income levels, but yeah.
If you don't even care that these women aren't getting married or leading to divorce rates, then what is the harm to society?
The harm that's involved in two people having a mutually monogamous long-term relationship isn't there. Like there isn't a harm in that. That's two people having a long-term relationship. We're not saying that there's any harm in that. We're saying there's harm in this concept of promiscuous behavior in all women, and that we should accept it.
What
and
is
so I'm
it?
asking you, what is
No,
it?
no, you
that we
didn't
should be
answer my question
accepting about it?
No, I'm sorry. Respectfully, you did not answer my question.
Yeah, no, I've actually answered it a number of times.
You didn't. You just repeated back that this is harmful.
Question, but I've actually given you the answer already a number of times.
You actually haven't. You literally just repeated back. You literally, excuse me. You literally just repeated back that promiscuity is harmful.
When women are running around, all right, when women are running around having sex with random people and they're not being selective in their process, they're not restricting themselves, they're not showing they have self-control, they're not showing that they value anything to themselves.
That's what you think, and how is that harmful?
Well, it's harmful because if you don't have self-control, you're showing future men that you don't have any self-control, and you won't be able to control yourself in a marriage, which can lead to all kinds of disastrous behavior. You just said you don't think secularists should get married. So how is that harmful? Yeah, I don't think they should.
So there is no harm.
I'm not the arbiter of all things law, and people will still get married. So we're going to reference this as if people are going to be married at some point, because that's what women want.
Ideally, they should for the benefit of the nuclear. But let me just focus, because let's just assume we disagree, where we agree on that point, which we don't, by the way. There's also an issue just in terms of reproduction. So we know that women have a finite amount of time in order to have kids, right? Generally, a woman's ability to reproduce starts dropping off at 30, it drops off again at 35, then 40. By 45, it's pretty much impossible for a woman to conceive, and I have stats on this if you like this. When do you think that women are doing their most promiscuous behavior? Like, when do you think that that's occurring? Do you think that that's occurring before 45? In between 18 and 45? Or when do you think that's occurring? Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, great. So while they're out there having their party phase or sleeping with a bunch of guys, or maybe they're on OF, unless there's a specific audience for that, they probably are not conceiving and continuing to do OF, then they're limiting their ability to reproduce. Is that not problematic?
I don't see how that's limiting their ability to reproduce if they end up making a decision to settle down in the age of childbearing ranges. Like, then they have a child. Like, if they want to.
I do want to definitionally, because I think Ghosty was tapping into it earlier. She was asking for the definition of, what a promiscuous woman is or was or whatever. And I do keep hearing OnlyFans being brought in. And I don't know if we can if we include that into the situation or into the prompt, I think we need to make sure the definition of promiscuity is open to that, because I think there are some OnlyFans girls that don't even have partners, or might even be virgins, or it's or maybe it's like one partner that they're just utilizing the entire time. So if we're defining promiscuity, are we including OF girls? And if so, how does that definition broaden to that? I just want to make sure we stay within the scope.
I suppose I would ask one question to clarify whether or not and what we would be including in the conversation.
Mhm.
Sarah, have you ever heard of sexting?
Once or twice,
yeah.
Okay. Do you think that the two people that are engaging in sexting are in a sexual relationship?
I think that can be pre or post.
Yeah, like
I mean,
generally
it
leads up
can
to
get
one.
pretty graphic in some of those.
Well, I mean, even sexting could be something as it could be something as simple as like, what are you wearing, right?
Right,
But it can
it could
also be a matter of like sending dick pics too. So the
or
graphic
boob
level,
shots or whatever.
yeah,
Right.
and I think that can depend
Pictures of my
on
wiener dog.
Right. And
it's subjective.
would you say that when someone's sending like a graphic picture of themselves, they're in more of a sexual relationship at that point because it's no longer just sending words, right? You're sending pictures of yourself to someone that's like, hey, look, this is my junk. What's yours?
I still wouldn't necessarily say it's a guarantee that they're in a sexual relationship.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I'd call it that.
Because I mean, even sexual intercourse is physical content, right?
I would call it maybe a romantic relationship,
So-
like not sexual.
Yeah, or like
romantic,
intimate.
maybe.
Well,
Intimate,
yeah,
I would
you're
go with
trying.
intimate.
See, the thing is, and the reason that I'm giving pushback here is because when we're talking about relationships, right, we're talking about the wider concept of men and women interacting. All right, we're not just talking about like on the limited format of a man and a woman that want to get married, because obviously promiscuous behavior doesn't happen in like low body count women, or I mean, it doesn't normally happen. Granted, there's exceptions, but it doesn't normally happen in low body count women or virgins that get married, right? It happens in people who are engaging in hookup culture or the promiscuous lifestyle.
So you would say that a husband and wife wouldn't sext each other?
No, I'm not saying they wouldn't. What I'm saying is anything that could be viewed as a relationship, which is a man and a woman talking to each other for a limited portion of time, getting to know each other, and then hooking up that night, never talking again. That could be a
Mhm.
relationship, albeit
That's
short term, but
yeah,
still a
casual.
relationship.
That's what you would
Right.
call casual sex.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so whenever a cam model is chatting with her little viewership, or the viewership thinks they're chatting with a cam model or whatnot, they are necessarily getting sexual comfort from that person. And so I would classify that as a relationship of a kind if they're engaging in that.
Like a parasocial one.
Yeah,
A
I would say it's
parasocial, yes, but
parasocial or
still-
even a business.
still a
I would
relationship.
like
Yeah,
business.
business.
Yeah.
Like a client
Yeah.
type relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Business
it's still a
client or
relationship.
like the service is that, well, and I don't even think all of them interact with messaging back and forth either. I think that's a very specific like subcategory of OF.
I don't know. They
Whereas
say
the
they do.
cam, we've talked to a lot of them actually. I know I have who actually don't interact that way. Some of them might do like live streams where they send questions and they interact and engage that way. But I haven't I haven't talked to one who specifically participates in the personal messaging, right?
I feel like if I could reframe a little bit, like I feel like what I came into this thinking we were going to focus on is like, women choosing to have consensual sex with with people. Like, I mean, you if you guys want to talk about like OF and stuff, I mean, I guess we can go down that road for a bit, but I feel like most people, when we're talking about promiscuity, we're talking about the broader trend of like women feeling like they're not or I'm sorry, if we're talking about the shame and whether we should shame people for being promiscuous, we're generally talking about women, whether they should be shamed for going out and having casual sex or basically. And
right. And I think Paige's direction was in terms of the influence, which I understand that as the influence, but I think the scope would be I thought it was like body count style too. I look at OnlyFans girls specifically if they have like what is their name? Bonnie Blue, like that body count, you know what I mean? to me, that's an abnormality to the conversation, because I don't believe most women would be trying to do these high body counts and wouldn't be doing it for that kind of money. I would also say, like, even prostitution, I wouldn't include them because they consider it a job, right? They're not doing this casually in terms of like, I'm going to go out and have casual sex for fun tonight.
Well, there's plenty of other jobs they could have taken, and they chose to take an easier, less socially accepted job because it was easier and it's what they could do.
God forbid.
Right, but I still think it stands outside of the scope of the. I just want to ensure we're within the scope of the prompt. That's all.
Well,
We can.
I think if you
and
give me a
even
little
Ryan
leeway here,
said,
you'll see how Cornhub correlates.
Mhm.
So
I'm okay with it if Ghosty and Ryan are okay with it, right?
well, I don't
I'm
really care if
reading
Ghosty and Ryan are okay with it. I just care whether you're okay with it because you're the mod.
I'm talking
They're my
about
opponent.
the prompt specifically. Like, I came into it
I
with the
get it.
same intention as Ryan did. So I want
I
to
get
make
it.
sure if we're utilizing OF and Cornhub girls as the example, well, then that is I think that's the exception to the rule, right? I don't feel like they necessarily count in terms of the casual encounters. That promiscuity that we all, as a general consensus, would agree would be a girl that goes out to a bar and takes home a dude that night and sleeps with him. That, to me, is what the definition of promiscuity is. And she does that continuously, and that's her rules of engagement with men, right?
Well,
I also would consider the idea of ensuring, like, for instance, you could have a body count of 20 if you sleep with 2 guys over a matter of 10 years, right? So are we including a high body count, or are we specifically saying it's casual only? So do you see how the terms keep moving as we get through the concepts? So the OnlyFans and the Cornhub, I just want to make sure we kind of like push that a little to the side, and it doesn't exemplify the entirety of the argument, if that
that's
makes
fine.
sense.
I don't really care to dive too far into that. The only reason I get pushback on that was because y'all were saying it's not a relationship, and it is definitionally a sexual relationship. So, but what I was more pointing at was the fact that whenever women engage in promiscuous behavior and put themselves into the red light scene or even bars in general, they are necessarily putting themselves in a more at-risk location and at-risk environment where there's a lot of snafficking going on that has been recorded and things have been done about it to some degree. However, there's a large amount of it that we haven't been able to do anything about in the world. There's still thousands and thousands of women that are missing and go missing on a daily basis because of this type of thing. And this isn't the only causation, right? There are other correlates to women going missing. Obviously, I'm not saying it's the only thing. I'm saying
so just to respond to that specifically,
the snafficking side, though, whenever they're getting taken from these locations that are like that, I mean, you have to see the harm in that kind of thing at a minimum.
Sure. So what you're saying is that women who go out to bars and clubs are at higher risk, but that has nothing to do with promiscuity inherently, right? Like the women who are going to bars and clubs, many of them are not being promiscuous. Many of them are just going out to drink and dance, and many of them are going to hook up with people. So it like.
And I would also argue that the action of sleep, like being promiscuous, isn't the harm. It's the action of the trafficker.
Let's talk about that point that like he's right, but you're addressing a point, and I'd like to stick on one point at a time until we go through it, right? So you're saying that you don't think that women that go to bars or clubs or things like this are engaging in promiscuous behaviors, but women advertise themselves. Men go to start the conversations up. Women are going to advertise themselves. Granted, there is an exception of women. Like there's a small portion of women that are going there for no specific purpose having to do with men.
I have a question.
But the vast majority are going there for promiscuous lifestyle behaviors.
I have a question. So, given like any given nightclub, any bar, do you think the majority of women are taking home a guy with them when they leave the club, or do you think it's a minority of women?
Oh, I wouldn't say either way that I'd know either of those.
Okay, well, you're saying you are generalizing. You're saying that the majority of these women are going to clubs to sleep with guys, and that's like the majority of that. They're advertising themselves to sleep with guys when they go to bars and clubs. So that's what you just said.
Because that's either what they're saying they're going there for through.
But if the majority of them aren't doing
or
that,
that's what
then
they're
that's
doing
if
whenever
the majority
they
of them aren't doing
go home
that,
with the guy.
if the majority of them aren't going home with men, then that's just not the case.
Okay, are you
I would
talking
also
about
add
the
that you're
majority
framing
in
of
one
them
night?
as being,
Hold
real
on,
quick.
Ryan. I'm engaging with
Let-
this. So, Ghosty, are you
yeah,
talking
let-
about the
Yeah,
majority
my bad.
in one night or the majority over time? Because there's a difference between the two, right?
In a night at any
Oh, okay,
nightclub,
in a night.
if you
In
go
a
to a
night-
nightclub,
yeah,
are the
okay,
majority of the
okay.
women in that nightclub
So-
going home with a guy?
So right, okay, so you take like 100 million women, and let's say they're all going to the bar, and only 1 million of them go home with guys that night. There's
Yeah.
365 nights in a fucking year. You do realize that, right?
Do you think
So
they're going to a
saying-
club
you're saying that just
365 nights a year?
1% to 20% of the women go home with men that night, that it's not that bad, and they're not engaging in a promiscuous behavior.
Okay, well, we also don't know how
There's
often.
7 nights in a week. There's like
We don't know
20,
how often
31
these women are
nights in
going
a
to a
month.
club.
Like,
Some
Gross
women
friends
maybe
didn't
go to a
invite
club
us.
once a
Not
year.
saying they always
Some
do.
go
What
once a
you're
month.
doing is you're minimizing as much as you can using this misguiding rhetoric.
No, I'm talking
All
about
right?
reality.
I
I'm
already
just
spoke to this before. No, you are. You're framing it as if that one night a week is all that women are doing, but that's not all they're doing. They continue. Women who engage in that behavior continue to do that behavior throughout the
Again.
portion of a year.
Again,
So-
I don't think the majority of
Just
women
because
at
they go home with
nightclubs are
somebody that
going
night
weekly.
doesn't mean the next night they don't.
Again, the majority of women at a nightclub are not going weekly. That is a minority. A minority of women at a nightclub are attending on a weekly or daily basis.
What is
So
your stat for that?
how often would you say is acceptable for a woman to be going home with a man and engaging in a promiscuous lifestyle? What is it that we as a society should be accepting as far as this is the number, right?
If it's
What's your
consensual,
threshold?
if it's consensual, whenever somebody
Well, I
wants
think
to.
it'll be consensual.
Sorry, consensual.
What a word combo.
I like it.
I thought
It's
so.
consexual. I like it. It's official, consexual.
I'll say
It's a
two
new
things.
Shakespeare word.
Number one, you should engage with her point about it being consensual and whether that's if you're
We'll
going to
get
argue
to
that's
that.
harmful
I
somehow.
wrote it
you gotta-
down. We'll get to that.
Wait.
Hold on.
Okay,
Let
well,
Ryan go.
Yeah, Jesus. So you should engage with that. But also, I think it's funny that you did this thing where like you're accusing people who hold our position of objectification, and then you're talking about women going to bars and dressing up as advertising themselves. What do you advertise? You advertise products. These are people who are want to look good.
Yes,
Everyone
you're
wants to look good.
objectifying
I
them.
want to look good when I go out to the
You're
bar too.
objectifying them by calling them products. You're showing they're objectifying
you're saying
themselves.
you're the one who said the
proving
fucking
my
word
point.
advertising.
Hold on. Let Ryan
Like-
finish his thought.
I mean,
I'm good,
you're
I'm
proving
good.
my point.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I don't feel like I proved your point. I think that your point was about how women who are going to bars and advertising themselves, and I feel like the thing that people advertise is products. You're supposed to advertise a product, and so you're comparing women to products there. Not me. I'm not doing that. That's what you're doing by calling it advertising.
You could say that a man who dresses up in a suit to go to a business meeting is advertising himself as a businessman or something. Like
See, this
people
is-
just dress
this
up.
is
Like this
speaking
is
to-
not how we like talk about people.
I get what you're saying. Going back to what Ryan was saying, though. All right, this just goes back to that misunderstanding, the single vector oppositional brainwashing that you guys do. All right, so like what you're doing is you're saying that we are the ones that are objectifying women, but we're not. All right, we are saying that they go to a club to advertise themselves. Women advertise themselves in dating. We're not
That's
saying
you
they're
objectifying
products.
women.
You said they're products.
No,
I
you
said they're
did.
women. I said they're women. You
He
said
was
they're products.
he was making a
clarify-
comparison to
yeah,
what
to-
you
to-
were saying,
He was
saying that
basing
you
that
were. Yeah.
off of
That's not
you
what
were
I'm saying at all. You're using misguiding rhetoric in order to
Yeah.
try and frame something I'm saying in a negative light. But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they're women. They advertise themselves to get a man in whatever context they're wanting to get a man. I mean, all of human society understands
Or
this
tease
fucking
men,
concept.
right?
I don't understand why you people keep trying to misrepresent this concept whenever we're having a conversation or a debate about it, other than trying to demonize us for not wanting to put up with your bad behavior.
What are we misrepresenting?
Ghosty, you seem like you've been to
You
a couple.
performatively just tried to
clubs and said this
misrepresent
much.
what I was saying about women advertising themselves to men as saying that they are products. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they're women advertising themselves. If you can't understand that concept away from products, you're literally showing that all you do is objectify women with this understanding you have. And so you're showing me why I shouldn't accept or tolerate or acknowledge promiscuity in women.
Go
An
see
alternative explanation.
how
could
many
be
men
that
have
we
tried to
we-
buy you. Just a sec, Ryan. Just let me make a point because there's been a
Sorry,
bit of
Paige.
back and forth.
Yeah, I didn't realize you've been trying to talk.
That's okay. Ghost, you expressed certain knowledge about like that scene. I'm just wondering, how many times has a guy offered to buy you a drink at a club?
Like, very rarely.
Sure. Okay, if I were to go into any major club right now, are women going to be wearing full-length pants and long-sleeve shirts, or are they going to be wearing mini skirts and mini dresses?
Yeah, they're going to be, like, dressed
Club wear, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole name, club wear. What does
Yeah.
club wear remind you of? I mean, does it look like you're trying to like show off certain parts of your body, perhaps trying to, I don't know, advertise? Isn't that weird?
You're trying to look hot. Yeah, that's what
I know,
Oh, you're trying to look hot.
And men do
Right.
the same thing.
Yeah, guys do. I'm not
Sometimes
saying
lots
they
of men
don't.
take their shirts off in clubs. Yes,
Tonight's
they wear
prompt isn't
bling,
about
they
male
fucking show
promiscuity,
off
it's
their...
about female promiscuity.
Okay,
I'd love to have another one with you about male promiscuity too, because I fucking hate that shit too.
Yeah.
Well, can I pose a question then? Does an outfit define a girl's sexuality?
No.
No, but it does define how she advertises herself and shows the world who she is. People look, it's something that like women have tried to push this concept onto everyone in the world that like we should always look past a cover, but we don't. We're judgment machines. We're pattern recognition machines. We constantly see things and make a judgment call on it. You see a fucking shark and his mouth is open and he's coming at you. What is your first thought?
Okay,
shit, I might get bit.
I agree with you that people
It's a judgment call.
I agree with you that
We
people
do that
are
all day,
judgmental.
every day.
I agree with you that people are judgmental and judge off of looks lots of times. But again, I don't know what this has to do with the prompt.
You're being viewed as doing promiscuous behavior, engaging in promiscuous behavior.
Okay, that doesn't mean she
All right?
is engaging in promiscuous behavior. And again, what is the harm in that anyways?
And see, that's the thing that like I don't really give a shit to
You're not gonna
discuss
answer.
right now. You're saying that we should acknowledge, tolerate, and accept it, and I'm not understanding why we should acknowledge, tolerate, and accept it because, like, I've already given you a number of examles of the harm that it does to women
Do you
and
believe
how
in
it's
personal
devalued
freedom?
them.
Do you believe in personal
listen,
freedom?
So when women of old, all
Also
right,
haven't heard the harm
old,
yet.
long time ago, used to say that they had a moral objection to something, right, in their community. The community would do something about it. I mean, women and men both understand this concept. Men are terrified of this concept even today because a woman can say that you're a PDF and there's a good chance that some guy on the street is going to shank your ass. All right? So women still to this day have a slight level of moral superiority, but it's waning. It's going away. It's not coming back. It's going away with the more promiscuous behavior. The less you value yourself, the less you show your value to higher value people
Wait,
in
so
society,
are you
the
saying
less
that
generally society will value you, and the less they will value what you say.
I
as a
don't
moral creature.
understand. Are you saying that more promiscuous women are likely to
I literally said exactly what I meant.
So are you saying that promiscuous women are more likely to say that a man's doing something that he's not? I can't think of the word.
That's not what I said at all.
Well, what
is
does
not
that have
I
to
said.
do with women's
understand.
morality?
Yeah, I think
or
maybe
you're just
it's
not
a-
making
that's the
sense. I'm
problem.
just
You're-
being truthful.
No, I'm
You're not
making
making any
sense
sense.
to people who have an understanding of this concept, right? The concept is women used to have the moral high ground. They used to be able to say, hey, look, I know that I can't prove it, but this kid came to me and said that dude over there did something he shouldn't have done to him.
And she
Can
was
you guys
believed?
go give him a whooping or talk to him or something? You know, set this right. The guys would go and do it. And you know what? While it may have not always been right, it had the same stats the justice system has today. All right? We still have injustices that happen in the justice system. Okay?
What does that have to do with promiscuity? That's what I'm asking.
Because as the higher moral construct, you aren't a promiscuous lady. You are a lady. If you're not promiscuous, you are more valuable to men. What you don't understand is that men and women each see each other in the same or see women in the same light, right? Men and women both recognize promiscuous behavior as something that is a net negative for society. There are young women that want to fight that, socially high class women that want to push this concept because they don't want to be shamed for things they've done. And That's fine. They don't want to, but they're still going to be, because this is an understood biological fact from both men and women that women that engage in this are less trustworthy. They're less. I mean, there's a whole slew of data that
My
goes
biology
along
doesn't
with
agree.
this.
What do I do?
Like, no,
How do I
because you're
fix that?
22. You don't have an understanding of
32,
what it is
actually.
to be a man. Okay, 32. You still, for some
Yeah.
reason, don't have an understanding of what it is to be a man, apparently.
Is it possible that we just have different ideas of what it means to be a man?
No. On a
In fact,
basic,
maybe
on a
you've been
basic
misguided.
understanding-
Maybe
on a
you're locked
basic
in your old
understanding,
ways.
I believe that on a basic understanding, all men could agree on a very short list of things that make a man a man. Such as, why the hell should I acknowledge, tolerate, or even accept promiscuity from females?
Okay, well, I don't agree. So there we go. Here we are, man to man. We got this. We got a
I said
headbutt.
you're not a
We have
man.
to-
You proved it. Okay, so continue the conversation. Explain to
prove
me
it.
why. Yeah, no, he just proved it.
That's not proof, buddy.
If
I don't
you disagree with him, then
Yeah.
you're not a man.
So
You
far
know-
outside of the scope.
See,
Okay.
this right here, what I just did is what you guys have been doing all night, all right? You're using misguiding rhetoric to try and shift away from things that you don't want to have a conversation about,
just not
or
making
try and mislead
sense.
people, right? So
We've
that's
just
what I
been
just
asking
did.
what the harm
I
is,
just
and you
showed
just
you
haven't been able to
exactly
say
what it is
anything.
that you're
You haven't-
doing.
Yeah.
You just haven't mentioned any harm. You said Cardi B was brainwashing women.
You're not approaching being
You're going
able
in
to show
circles,
us
you're going
why
off
society
subjects,
should accept.
you're
You're not
rambling.
approaching showing us why society should accept female promiscuity, why we should tolerate it.
I have an
why we
answer.
should- yeah,
I
mean,
have an answer.
like-
I have an answer. Personal freedom. Do you believe in personal freedom?
It depends on the realm and the contextual
So you don't-
understanding of
so
the
you don't
concept,
believe
the
in, like-
subconcept.
You don't believe in personal freedom as long as it's not violating somebody else's safety.
I don't believe
for
in
example.
unilateral personal freedom. No, I don't.
Okay, well, I do.
What are the limits?
People overseas to make sure they didn't have unilateral personal freedom to come and bomb our buildings.
Okay, I just said as long as it doesn't put somebody else at risk for harm, like violence. So
Okay, so a promiscuous woman running around having sex with a lot of men has a higher risk of STDs. Does that necessarily put her future partners at risk?
it could, but she doesn't have
So-
to. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I would say it could, but also,
it
well,
could,
hang on.
could,
Also,
maybe
it could, but
You
also,
already said it
but
could.
Importantly,
Right, so
importantly,
Hold on.
you're not-
Let Ryan finish his
yeah,
thought.
Jesus, man. So importantly, one of the things I brought up in my opening statement is that stigma actually reduces the rates of people getting tested for STDs. So actually, your position, which is that we should stigmatize this, is leading to less people getting tested, and therefore making it more likely that these people are going to spread those STDs.
Stigma?
Stigma? Like you go to your
How?
doctor and they do a
Yes,
test.
Stigma.
And
Show
then
me
we call
how
you.
stigma
People are
is
less likely to
reducing
do that.
people wanting to
Yes.
get STD tests. Show me how stigma is doing that.
Yeah, I'll
What
post
stigma?
a link at the back.
What stigma are you talking about?
Stigma
Stigma
against.
being viewed as like a slut or something.
Yeah.
What, because you're going to your family doctor to get an STD test and they're calling you via phone to let you know whether or not you have to come in for a confidential meeting with your doctor?
Yeah, being judged
Like-
by your doctor. Yeah.
Being judged by your doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not aware of this phenomenon?
Now, I don't give a shit what my doctor thinks. I go in
Yeah.
for medical advice.
You
I don't
should.
care about
They're
his.
supposed to take care of you. You should
I don't
care
care
about
about
their
their
opinion, right?
sociological advice
That's
or
you,
their
but
ethical advice or
this
their
is how
moral advice.
psychologically.
I go to them to get healed. That's their fucking job. That's
Good
what
for
I pay
you.
them for.
Psychologically, this affects people in this way. Whether that's right or wrong is a different thing. The fact is that it happens.
Okay, show me how this is happening. How is it that they are being stigmatized or shamed in some way for getting an STD test?
You're
We should
you're
look at
doing
the
it
prompt.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I posted a paper in the back from the conclusion of it. STD-related stigma may be an important barrier to STD screening for adolescents and young adults. Given the fact that most participants reported receiving an STD test during a routine health visit, it is unclear whether STD-related stigma may be associated with care seeking versus acceptance of STD screening at a routine health visit. So it's it's a little bit inclusive, but
Isn't STD testing part of the promiscuous lifestyle being lived responsibly that you guys are promoting here? Like, why would it be?
Well, again, we're not.
yeah.
Again, we're not promoting promiscuity.
True.
We're just accepting it.
Okay.
But I would say if someone were to ask, if someone was going to be promiscuous, I would encourage them also to get tested regularly. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
100%.
Right. So
this is not a formatively
So
put
being
together
promiscuous has nothing to
study.
do with whether they get tested or not,
It
right?
doesn't list the methodology in which they did this study. It doesn't list no. It doesn't have cited references.
It literally has. There's literally a methodology section. What are you
No.
talking about?
It explains what they perceived as their methodology. That's not a methodology. The methodology that they're using is an explanation of them going and getting a number of people and doing this X thing and that and that and that.
This National Institute of Health.
They're not explaining, right? They're not explaining the general concept of the methodology that they're using. What they're doing is just giving you a bunch of word salad bullshit that doesn't actually tell you what it is that they're doing.
Wait, just because you don't understand what they're telling you doesn't mean it's just bullshit, right?
No, this is actually word salad bullshit. This is called filler text. When studies are done, what they'll do is they'll give you a methodology saying we use this methodology to conduct this study. Below are how we correlated the data from X, Y, Z, whatever bullshit, right?
Yeah, they'll have like a section that says procedures, a section
crap,
that says measures, a section that says
all
statistical analyses, like this one
does.
does.
The methodology
Right?
has nothing to do with the methodology of it. Like this,
Here, I'm just
this
gonna
is
post this in the
explaining.
general
This is
chat for everyone.
explaining. Yeah, feel free to. This is explaining a whole bunch of word salad bullshit about what they did for their study, but it's not explaining all of their cited references that they have and whether or not each and every one of those data sets. Oh, this isn't a meta study. This is a singular study taking only Fafner data or Fafian data from sources. Okay, I understand.
At this point, we can either just accept the study or reject it. I don't know if we want to waste our time arguing
Either way, like if
study.
we want to talk about STDs, and I would say STDs are harmful, right? But that doesn't mean that you can be promiscuous responsibly. So you can get tested, you can use protection. I would never say that being promiscuous, like if you're being promiscuous, be responsible about it. But again, this doesn't have to do with promiscuity itself.
I'd like to bring up another point too. If individuals were not, oh, sorry, Cleaner.
No, go ahead. I don't see how it's not. That's all.
Yeah, and also I'd like to point out the fact that if individuals were not promiscuous, then they wouldn't be needing to expose them to the stigma of an STD test. For instance, if two people are virgins and they get married together, right? They're not going to need consistent STD screening, ergo no stigma, ergo again societal good. Neither of you have demonstrated that there is a societal good to female promiscuity. I've not heard that yet. So
it's not the prompt. The prompt is to accept it. Right.
Well, that means tolerating it. Yeah, that means saying that it's okay.
The thing is, though, we have to be able to approach
it.
Neutrality on it, and as it is currently,
start neutrality.
It is
at neutrality.
Listen. All right. So what you're saying is we should acknowledge, tolerate, and accept female promiscuity. All right. That would say that it would be a neutral or a positive. All right. What it is right now is a shamed concept. So what you have to do is convince us of a way that the shame is incorrect or the shame should not be there. Because if what we're seeing is behavior that we consider shameful, then you're going to have to show us why we should not be shaming for that behavior. That's what I've been trying to get you to explain all night. You're not giving us an example.
And what we've been saying is that there is no reason to shame it because there is no harm that comes from it, and we also believe in personal freedom.
We've already shown you how there's harm.
We have asked you time and time again for the harm, and you just keep repeating it is harmful.
But you don't believe in unilateral personal freedom, do you? You
don't
truly believe that there's no harm because you agreed that someone who has more sexual partners is at a higher risk for STDs, and their future partners are at a higher risk for STDs. All right, so I mean, you're not like you've already agreed to that, which is pretty much
they can get tested, and most STDs are
there's no reason why we should go along with this.
And I would also say that in my opening statement,
not all STDs are curable.
I said most.
Sorry. Yeah.
Not most.
I was also saying in my opening statement, I also mentioned several studies that talk about explicitly how the shame, the stuff that you guys are suggesting we should be doing, is actually the thing that causes harm in quote unquote promiscuous women. That usually the regret that is associated with sexual experiences is either from bad sex or from the social shame around having had sex.
How is it a bad thing to see? The thing is, I'm still not you're not giving me something that actually matters as far as how how
Well, you don't care about
shaming
whether
is
women
a
regret having
negative.
sex, right? I
What
guess.
you're saying, all you're doing is saying, oh, shaming women is negative. But
Yeah,
you're
it
not
is.
telling me how. You're not
It
telling me how it
increases-
harms them.
It makes them more likely to regret sex they have.
Okay, and
But
how is that a
also,
bad
like
thing?
I said in my opening statement too,
Like,
it leads to
If they're running
confusion
around
between
being
men and women.
promiscuous, and as a society, we understand that as a negative behavior, and we shame that. Why should we not? All you're saying is because it makes those few women that are doing it feel bad. Well, good. That's what shaming is supposed to do. So what you're telling me is our tactic
It
is
also
working.
doesn't disincentivize behavior.
It's
I'm
not
not saying
working
harm.
because it's not working because it's not preventing it. It's just keeping women from hiding it
does.
and
It
lying
can help
about
prevent it. It can very well help prevent
It
it.
doesn't prevent it.
Oh, I tell you right now, it does.
At least.
We can shame pedos all we want. Does that stop people from being?
There are
that?
different
No,
levels
it
of
doesn't.
social shame. You
Can we
understand that,
shame
right?
drug addicts? That doesn't stop people from doing drugs. We can slut shame all we want. People are still going to do what they want behind closed doors, and then they'll just lie to you about it.
Do you understand the different levels of shame that society uses on people? You understand there are different levels of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some shaming can be
you
good
understand.
in
You
certain
understand that on the
instances.
most extreme levels of social and judicial shaming, people get executed.
That's a law.
Yeah, it's judicial shaming.
Okay,
It's
if
still
you want
shaming.
to, if you want to consider that as shaming, sure.
I do consider it as shaming. We're telling you, you did something wrong. Bad. Go die in the electric chair.
More along the lines of like law. I think it's more for justification and making things right again. I don't know if it's necessarily shaming. Shaming would be like.
I don't think it's always about making things right, though, Sarah.
And even
I think the law. Okay, Paige, I feel like you should be singing against that thought process too. I think the law is built in for justification between the people. If you went against somebody's, rights that they have, and you took something away from them, like it's a ramification and it's a justification. Just the same as like paying somebody back, right? I don't know if it's necessarily shaming. Shaming would be like public
scrutiny of
scrutiny, right?
So like when
telling
we,
them you're bad.
Televise the fact that we're executing a guy who's on death row for doing a bad thing.
Yeah.
We're literally shaming him in society.
It's been proven that like the death penalty and stuff doesn't even prevent crime anyways. So like these aren't even preventative.
What we're doing is shaming people for this behavior,
and that doesn't work.
Does make people understand that is a bad behavior.
What we're
and yes,
telling
it
you
does
is
work.
it doesn't work. It's not a preventative measure.
All
it does is make people
that they will go to jail for doing
these
bad things.
Yeah, so they kill somebody and they try to hide the body. That's what happens.
Just a
when you have
second.
the
Let
death
me,
penalty.
because Sarah directly encountered me on this because I do have some experience in this. So there's two components, right? Obviously, yes, they're in the civil litigation system. The point is making somebody whole monetarily. When we're talking about the criminal justice system, there's two components. Yes, there is justice in the form of incarceration or in lesser offenses, things like community service or weekend jail, but you cannot deny the fact that in and of itself, the punishment does have a correlation to shame. You are a felon for the rest of your life, or maybe if you're seen, picking up trash as part of your community service, people can see that, okay, this has been an offender to society in some way. Yes, there is a justice element, there is a penal aspect, but there is also the shame that accompanies that. It's undeniable.
Would you consider that shame to be the law in and of itself, or would you consider that to be public view?
It's two-part. It's the law telling the person that it's wrong, and then people generally like look at felons or people that have been sentenced to criminal punishment in a negative light. It's just a matter of fact. People have difficulties getting jobs if they're a former felon. Oftentimes, in certain circumstances, they're labeled and put on a list for all of their community to see. There's definitely a public shame element to the prosecution of crime.
So we could talk about prostitution.
And we could, we could even go so far as to say that to some degree, human beings created the social concept of law and order because of shame, because of things that were societally destructive, things they wanted to shame in society. So the whole concept of justice, law and order, all of these things are because of us seeing a net negative in society and wanting to shame that behavior out of society.
We want to prevent that behavior.
Yes.
We want to hold people accountable for that behavior.
Yes.
Yes, by saying you're a bad guy.
Or by like giving them a fine or something. It's not just about making them like feel like a bad person, but like I guess incentivizing behavior.
Whenever somebody goes to court for, I don't know, a speeding ticket, let's say, and they go to court, they have two options. What are their two options to plead to the judge?
Guilty.
Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty or not guilty. Guilty is a shaming concept. You're guilty. It is a shaming concept. The whole construct is about shaming people who are doing bad behavior.
I think that's like a bit of a stretch, but
yeah, I actually
it's
to
getting
say
to the
that.
base of it.
Well, hold on. I think because you're adding a word in here, and the word is the intention. The intention of the law is to shame, and I don't know if that's. I wouldn't agree with that. So I want to make sure
the intention is to like mitigate this behavior to a minimalist, if at all happening concept, right? It's we're trying to get rid of a behavior that's bad in society. Society said this is a bad behavior. And so one of the forms of shaming that we have is to remove someone from society, and other people see they are removed by telling them they are guilty for something and putting them in a jail.
Yeah,
away from society.
The reason
they are being shamed. Granted, they're having an extra level that's added to it through the judiciary process. The judiciary process, though, is an extension of the concept and understanding of shaming people for bad behavior.
But the reason we need jail and laws and stuff is because shaming alone doesn't work. Just saying this is bad and society is going to look down on you if you do this thing doesn't actually prevent that behavior. It might feel like a super manual, like
to when you're saying it doesn't necessarily work, or it isn't the only thing that works, right? What I would say is that it works to some degree, and it works in large degrees with some people.
Can you give like an
and
example?
Small degrees in others. Okay.
Can you give an example of how shaming is used as a preventative measure?
Sure, absolutely. My son tries to touch the stove, and I say, "Don't do that, dumbass. That's hot." And he goes, I'm stupid for trying to do that. It's hot. I won't do that again.
I don't think that's shaming. You're not making
that's
him
literally shaming.
You're not
the dumbass part is probably, I guess.
Literally
shaming.
If you're calling him stupid and making him feel like a lesser person for touching the stove, then that would be shaming. But if you're just teaching him...
We do that to each other all day long, every day. That's what we do. That's how we construct our reality and understand our safety procedures, what we should and shouldn't do.
Okay,
so does that prevent?
Of course it would. Kids look up to their parents.
No, but you're not calling your kid, you're not like you're not being like, wow, you're so stupid, you're an idiot, you should think lesser of yourself for touching the stove.
That's not demeaning to him.
You teach him that this is going to hurt you.
Between demeaning someone,
that's not shaming.
In the moment, shaming them in a way that makes them remember it.
That's not shaming.
Yeah, it necessarily is. They're ashamed of their behavior. That has triggered shame in them. They are ashamed of doing that.
Like they associate
hold on.
We're so far off.
Hold on.
You haven't even
hold on,
Sarah.
Hold on, Cleaner, because I you keep just saying so much, and I'm not picking on you. I swear. I just want to make sure we really clarify this stuff. Shaming a child for bad behavior, I don't think would be like if they touch the stove and it's hot and you say don't do that again, right? That's correction, and then that's a teachable moment. To shame them, like you would have to be ashamed that your child is a dumbass, right? I would have to be ashamed of your behavior, and usually that requires like a public viewing, right? I'm ashamed of you being such a dumbass, but I don't.
It doesn't always require public.
I don't know if
it can be one-on-one between two people.
And this is actually shown.
A husband and a wife may shame each other for things that they consider the other one doing that are bad, but not share that with the public because it's their private life.
This is shown like
sharing. It's the like shame, like Japan takes shame to a very, very high degree, right?
Yeah, they take it to an extreme example. I agree.
Yes, you have shamed your family's name. You have shamed who we are, and I think that I don't
You guys
think.
have shamed the debate
Yeah,
community.
I just, I
Well,
think,
I mean,
I
this is the
think you're
thing.
taking
They've only been
shame
talking
in a
about our
different.
concept of shame and saying that it's a bad thing to try and prove that we should accept female promiscuity. And the thing is, they haven't given me a reason to say why shaming these people is bad. If a majority of society doesn't want this behavior to happen, then why should we not shame it?
How do you know it's the majority of society that doesn't want this behavior to
true.
happen? And even if they did, there again, what we're saying is it's illogical. There is no actual logical reason to shame these people for having consensual sex.
There's plenty of
on their
logical
own will.
reasons.
Again,
There
you
are plenty
haven't
of
given
logical-
any,
I've
except
given
for
I've given you a
STDs.
bunch
That's
of
the
them.
Well, you
the
gave- no,
STDs is the one
You did give
example.
one.
You
You
can
argued
look
that
at
like there are
person's
men
past.
who
All right.
would be
So
less likely to want them, right?
Women look at men's futures. They look at what men can do for the future. Men look at what women have done in the past to judge what their behavior will be in the future. All right. This is performatively correct. This is what, generally speaking, most men and most women do. All right. We look at what your past was, and we say, oh well, she was never loyal to someone, so I don't see that she's going to be a loyal person. That's one of the things that men value most from a woman.
We're not
is
talking about
loyalty.
loyalty.
Promiscuity doesn't
loyalty
have-
and promiscuity or not.
Yeah, that doesn't have to do with loyalty unless you're cheating.
And maybe they are, maybe they aren't.
Okay, well, cheating would insinuate disloyalty,
Them being
but
promiscuous.
being promiscuous does not.
They would be, cheating would be being promiscuous when you're in a relationship with somebody and you're saying you're committed and you won't cheat on them. All right, I would even agree that that's probably not as large a portion of the population as social media has made it out to be. However, that is still a significant portion of the population. When you're even talking about 20% of the people, 30% of the people cheating on people, that's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Yes,
Well,
shouldn't cheat on each other. I agree.
Okay, so those people shouldn't be behaving in promiscuous behavior. So
No, they should
what
break
all
up
you're
if
doing
they're
is
gonna
giving.
do it,
All
yeah.
you're doing is accepting points that I'm saying we should shame for promiscuity. You're not telling me why
But
we
if they're outside of
shouldn't yet.
a relationship, you haven't given any good reason to shame them for that promiscuity.
Yeah, because whenever I already explained to you that, like, when you're looking at someone for a long-term relationship, you're looking at their past behaviors, their past relationships. If they've never been in one, then you have nothing to inform that from, and you spend a little longer time with them, getting to know them, and building that trust level with them. However, if someone has had a large number of very short, nonchalant, bullshit relationships, one-night stands, things like that, you're going to have less of a belief that they will be loyal because they've never shown that they're capable of being loyal. They've only shown they're capable of sticking around for that night.
So would you assume the same for men who have
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I mean, there's some women that.
Like I said, I'd love to have the men conversation with you too, because I think that's, and this is the thing that I said in my opening, was what's going on right now is people are trying to tell women it's okay to do the most demonized and morally destructive thing that men do, that other men, good men, look at them and say, you're a fucking degenerate for that shit. You shouldn't do that. That is devaluing the women you're doing that to. That is making them a sexual
In your
object.
eyes.
But
You're
again, that's
objectifying
you
them. You're
doing
only
that.
looking. No,
You are the
seriously,
person
they're
taking
only
value.
looking at them as a sex object.
No, you are the person taking away value from that person.
I'm not.
People can have casual sex and still value that
I'm not
person.
taking the value away from anyone.
You can have a one-night stand and have a good time, respect that person, think they're really cool, but you're just not looking for a relationship. Like it's not always like this. Like just, and some people do that. They just
Right, and you're a Friday night chick, not a relationship chick.
Okay,
Men
but
understand this
if
concept.
if you are saying that woman has less value now because she's a Friday night chick, that is you
does.
devaluing her. So
No,
that is
she's
you
devalued
saying she has
herself
less
for
value.
allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
She's devalued
There's less
herself
value to
for allowing
you,
that to
not
happen.
less value.
No, she has, yes. Okay, so when we're talking about value, I'm not saying she's
From your
not a human
perspective.
being. What I'm saying is, as far as a relationship, a long-term relationship with someone, whenever a guy goes into a long-term relationship, he looks at the value of a woman, all right? Judgment calls create value. We can't get around that. That's just performatively correct, all right? Whenever we go through and we start judging things, okay? We start saying, okay, this behavior is good, this behavior is bad, this behavior is good. That creates a value of good and bad. It values someone. It literally values them as being good or bad.
Okay.
Higher value because of more good things, less value because of more bad things.
Would you say that different people value different things?
Yes, I
about each
would.
other?
I absolutely would say that different people value different things. However, generally
feels free
speaking,
to have casual
the vast
sex
majority of men that are looking for relationships value three things that are pretty much the same across the board. We want loyalty, we want respect, and we want a nurturing woman. A woman that will raise our
What
children
does that
if
have
we
to
have
do with
children with them.
promiscuity?
Because generally women that are promiscuous are not offering those character traits. There's
Are you
a lot of
serious?
things. Just a
They're
sec,
not
let me finish.
showing them.
Yeah, there's a lot that can
Not
happen
while they're
too during a
being
woman's
promiscuous.
promiscuous phase. Okay. She can get, like we've said, STDs. She can gain a very high body count. I don't know if either of you have like been living under a rock, but the conversation surrounding body count is very high, particularly when we're talking about online. And let's face it, online is where a lot of
astroturf.
relationships occur. Sorry,
So that shit's astroturf.
that's your personal opinion.
What
do
do
you
like,
mean?
Again,
like,
again,
I'm saying
but what
that,
does-
people
what does
love
ha-
to set up debates about it.
You-
It
you're
doesn't
gonna
mean it's
use
like
another
a real thing that
misguiding
everybody
rhetorical
deals with
command
on
there?
a day-to-day basis.
What
I
does
don't think when
having- Sorry.
real quick. I just think when most people are like meeting people in real life, and this is as someone a grass toucher myself, I think most people when they meet other human beings in real life, and if they're interested in them, they're not really they're not explicitly focused on like, oh, what's your body count? Like this isn't like a real thing that most people deal with.
When you're going to enter into
it's
a
very online
sexual
thing.
relationship with them, you're not concerned about their sexual history. You don't think that that's telling
I
as
didn't
to
say
what.
that. No, I'm just saying the body count specifically is the thing that people are less concerned with.
But answer the question. Okay, is that something that you would consider to be an evaluation of risk when you're approaching a partner to have a sexual relationship with? Yes or no?
If they don't have any STIs and STDs, then they don't like have a history of cheating on partners and stuff, then I don't really care.
So their sexual contact does matter to some degree
Yes.
to you
No,
because
but-
you
no,
want to
but-
know if they have STIs or STDs.
Those things are separate, is what I'm
No,
telling
they're
you.
not
Those are
separate from
things.
sex. You have to have sex to get them. So if you ask them if they have anything like that, you are necessarily asking them if they are not a virgin.
You can
At
also
minimum.
get an STD from sleeping with one person. So like
Right. I didn't say you couldn't. I just
So,
said
again, this
you
has
are
nothing to do with
necessarily asking them
promiscuity.
if they are not a virgin.
This has nothing to do with promiscuity.
if
And
they
what I
say,
was pushing
"I've
what
got
I was
our
pushing back
something,"
on
then you know they're definitely not.
what I was pushing back on is you guys were saying that women who are promiscuous don't have the
ahead.
qualities of being nurturing, loyal, and the other one.
No, I
you
didn't
said.
say they don't have those qualities. You're using misguiding language
You
again.
literally
You're
said
using
that.
misguiding language. I didn't say
And
that.
Paige
They're
agreed.
not showing it. They're not
When did I
showing they
agree?
have those qualities.
You're
using misguiding language.
Paige, you literally said promiscuous women tend not to have those qualities. That is
Tend
exactly
not
what you
to
said.
have those. Didn't say
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
You
I'm
said
not
it in a
saying you
monolith,
said
though, see?
always, but again, what is the link to promiscuity and not being nurturing, not being loyal, and whatever the third thing you named was that you want in a woman?
Generally does not result in those character traits. If you're
Having
going
a high
around
body
sleeping
count means you're
around-
not nurturing?
If you're more sexually promiscuous, generally you're less able to. There's things like pair bonding.
Yeah,
there's
that's not a real thing. There's nothing to back that up.
Even Ghosty.
Really?
Even
Okay.
if
There's nothing to back up
women
that
who have
sleeping with
a
people
high
means you can't
body
pair
count
bond or
were
be nurturing.
capable of being nurturing, that still doesn't say why men should accept women with high body counts. You're still not giving me any reason to
I
why
never
we should
said you have-
accept promiscuity.
If you don't want to date a woman who has a high body count, that's all you, dude. I don't care. I'm not judging
You're
you.
wrong too.
But you also don't have to shame a woman who wants to have sex. You don't have to date her, but you don't have to shame her either. There's literally no use for it.
Yes, there is. The usage is the more that we shame people who run around and do things that we don't view as good, the less that thing happens.
That's not true. They just hide
Yes,
it and lie about it.
It absolutely is.
No, shaming
We've
is
already
not a
proven that with the justice system.
That
No, we didn't
that
prove
is giving a
Yes, we
consequence.
have.
And again, and even the justice system doesn't prove that.
Even if we take the justice system out of it, all right? People shaming other people for bad behaviors does work. We know this works. We know this concept works because as we raise our children, hold on,
You're
Ryan,
asserting
as
it's a
we-
bad behavior. We don't
as
even
we-
agree
hold
it's a
on,
bad
Ryan.
behavior.
Hold on. I'm answering what Ghosty was saying. As we raise our children, we do shame them for things that we consider bad behaviors. We do encourage good behaviors in them. All right, so this concept does work. You can't tell me it doesn't. It does.
It doesn't, and you haven't proven that it does.
Well, right
Or that
now,
it's a
for
bad
instance,
behavior.
right now, I saw a statistic this
Man.
morning from World Visualized, and on the list of world's most revenue efficient companies, OnlyFans is at the top with 37.6 million. It's Apple is below it at 2.4. Microsoft's below it at 1.1. Amazon's at that at 0.4. These are people with legitimate jobs that are not encouraging promiscuous behavior, and yet they're exceeded by OnlyFans. If that doesn't tell you that we are not shaming people enough for promiscuity, I don't know what does.
That doesn't say anything because these users on OnlyFans and cam websites, they're anonymous. So all those people who watch the whatever podcast and are slut shaming, they go and subscribe afterwards. Like they're just lying about it.
All do that.
I'm not saying they all do it.
That is like
you just said they all do it. You just said they all do it.
Did, but
I know
what you meant.
I'm sorry, but
I'm
sorry.
Everyone knew what you meant.
Of them.
Even Cleaner knew, even though he's pretending not to.
People use.
It's how you
they
speak.
Continually use misguided language to try and paint things in a negative or positive light based off of what they want.
Also, just having the whatever podcast have like 10,000 viewers every night or whatever is just a factor to show that we do still slut shame. Like these shows, all these red pill shows are super popular because men love to just shame women for being sexual.
No. See, you're conflating two things there. You're actually conflating two topics, okay? Yes, there is a small portion of men that watch that want to see whatever kind of bullshit goes on between the debaters that are happening, right? But there's a lot of guys that actually watch that because they just want to watch a dating podcast and see what women are saying they want in the world and whether there's any women that are out there that are worthy of them. You see
That's
this
not gonna help. That's
whenever
men
send in super chats saying, "Hey, chair 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I fucking love you. Here's my IG. Hit me up."
Yeah.
I mean, how many relationships has Brian even been in? Like that, does that guy have a history of?
I don't know, and I don't give a fuck because that's not what we're talking about.
If you're talking about guys going there for
we should
dating
accept
advice.
female promiscuity, and you're still not proving it.
Okay, so when I talk about the topic that we go down, I'm in trouble
haven't been
for
able
it,
to give me.
People have been slut shaming me in the comments tonight.
Point.
Yeah,
and they don't even know my history.
Hold on. I think kind of the goal, and I won't speak on Brian's behalf, but I think based on what I've seen, as part of the goal is to kind of add that slut shaming factor into the whatever show. It's there. It's very in your face. It's very consistent. You know what I mean? And I think that's just built in. And I think
it's
sometimes
drama. Yeah.
Right.
I never said it wasn't to a degree. I even conceded that yes, a small portion of men call into the show for nothing more than just to shame the girls. However, there is another portion of men that calls into the show or super chats, whatever the fuck you want to call it, just to simp after the girls because they like some of them. Some of the
Most
people
of the donations
just send,
are shaming them.
But see, this is the thing, right? What they're doing is misguided language yet again, misguided rhetoric.
Most of the donations are shaming them. If you've ever watched the show, you know this is true.
Not most.
Cleaner clearly doesn't watch the show.
No,
not most. Are you kidding?
Not most. No. Yeah, not
Definitely
most.
It is overwhelmingly most. Almost all. Like literally almost all. It is
You're
hard
using
to
misguided
find.
rhetoric yet again.
I'm not. Like literally pull up the whatever podcast chat and find me one nice comment about the women.
Just one? There's thousands of them.
Yeah.
There are thousands of them.
Hot. Well, chair 2 is has
you
a nice
obviously never watched it.
They're not gonna bring you on, Paige.
I have watched it.
I don't want to go on the whatever podcast.
Well, then I mean, there's like I don't think there may be like 1 or 2 episodes that there hasn't been a nice comment about one of the ladies on panel. There might be, but generally speaking,
one out of literally a constantly running chat with 12,000 people is not proving your point.
Let's take it back. Let's take it back because I don't want to make the show completely about whatever.
Bring me on, Brian. You
to pull it back to promiscuity, but then it got derailed back there.
I know. That's why I'm going to bring it back for everyone. I wanted to tap into the idea of if anybody wants to dig into it, you don't have to, but the idea of privacy behind closed doors, the government, especially since we're talking about society, and society is where like we build into our government, right? So I wanted to bring it to the idea that privacy behind closed doors is a constitutional right. Like you do whatever you want behind closed doors. The government has no right to interfere. Therefore, that should be reflective of society. And what you do behind closed doors is also so long as you're not harming somebody else's rights or impeding on the laws, doing illegal things, so on and so forth. Otherwise, the government says, we don't care, do whatever you want. Does anybody want to chime in down that route, since it's, society should acknowledge, tolerate, and even accept female promiscuity? I would say legally, there's nothing barring that. Paige,
I'm not
I know
saying
you're
there
very...
is.
Yeah, I don't think there is, because it's outside of the societal scope. I mean, look, my point is from a Christian worldview. I think that it should be like those sexual acts should be between a man and a woman who are married. The Bible tells us this is fine, that we're to give our bodies to each other in marriage. I don't think that you should be having, like orgies at your house without anybody knowing. I think that that's really degenerate. I don't think we should be encouraging that in any way, shape, or form. But the fact of the matter is, the prompt is about society. And in my view, as long as they're not broadcasting that, that's outside of the societal lens. So I don't see I wouldn't even have the opportunity to shame it, because it wouldn't be obvious to me.
Yeah,
So
the concept of what's happening behind closed doors and whatnot, like if a woman isn't telling people what she's done, then no one knows. But to some degree in society, people do see behaviors. They do see, like, your friends will see you go home with a guy whenever you're at a bar, or your friends will see, you're like one of your friends, you'll go home with a girl. I mean, what's happening to some degree, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you know all the ins and outs and all the gory details that you don't want to really fucking know. But
So
it
why
does
should we
mean
shame them
that,
for it?
and I'm not saying that you know every single one, right? I mean, I wouldn't say
Yeah,
that.
but why should we shame them for it?
And this is the thing that the conversation isn't about. The conversation
Not
is
about why
about
we
why
should
we
shame
should
them?
accept it. See, you keep trying to turn this thing around as if we're
What
the
does it
ones
mean
with
to
the
not
affirmative
accept it?
prompt,
What does it mean to not
and
accept it?
we're
I'm
not.
sorry. What would that look like? What does not accepting it look like?
See, here's the thing. I don't have any reason not to shame this type of behavior. Currently, I don't have any reason. You haven't given me one. What you've done is you've given me a reason that is based on your feelings or your thoughts, and then we've gone through it and deconstructed it and refuted it completely. You haven't given
not
me
what happened here.
anything that's logical that says we shouldn't
so it's actually quite logical
we
to
shouldn't
say
shame
that
people. We should
it's
accept
actually
female promiscuity. You haven't given
whenever
me
you're
anything
done.
that
Whenever
says
you're
that.
done. Okay, so I would say that it's quite logical actually to start with a neutral outlook on a behavior and then to decide whether or not it's a harmful behavior by some metric, which you guys have failed to do, except for that, like, some men might not want them, which is fine. Those, like, they probably don't want those men either.
Not some men. The large portion of men in the world want
According
a
to
loyal
you.
woman. And what they don't see,
you have no evidence these women are disloyal.
Right. You don't have any evidence that they are either.
So that makes it illogical to assume that they are, right?
Well, there we go. We're neutral. We don't have either. So what's the reason to shame them again?
Like there is no reason to
Because
believe that somebody who sleeps around is
engaging in a
more likely to
behavior
cheat
that
than
men
somebody who
find
hasn't.
disgusting. So once you move to a neutral ground, then you get into preferences. All right. When you create a
This is all
neutrality,
preferences.
you get into what preferences are after that. The preferences of men versus women, right? Yes?
Or I mean, aggregate, yes, I guess. But
Right.
like, we're talking about preferences
Yeah,
of
I'm not saying
people in general.
monolithically. I mean, there's going to be other things that'll inform your decision making process in your partner, right? But majoritatively, it would be preferences. It would be your preferences. When you create a neutral,
and our preference is that you shouldn't,
right.
and we have also a lot of data that suggests
this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. All right. If you're saying, okay, so you've not got any proof that she's not loyal. Well, we don't have proof that she is loyal, but we do have proof that she hasn't shown loyalty to the guys that have been in her life before.
Because she didn't need to. She wasn't in a position where she should be loyal.
That's the thing, okay? When we're
So
talking
that's illogical to assume that.
Hold on. No, it's not illogical.
It is, because she is no more likely than a woman who has only had a woman who's been in a monogamous relationship
illogical to
cheat.
assume anything that there's evidence for. All right. You see evidence of her not showing loyalty, therefore you don't know if she will be loyal. That's what you can take away from that. It creates
so does she prove you wrong after she gets in a relationship and is loyal for long, like a year or two?
It definitely creates that negative bias in your mind where you're saying, all right, I've never seen her be loyal. In fact, I've seen her just use guys in the past. So how do I know she's going to be loyal?
You can also say this about a virgin, somebody who's never had a boyfriend. You have no proof to show that she's been
promiscuous.
You have no proof.
You don't see her using men.
Excuse me, you have no proof to show that she's been loyal or disloyal to men.
Hold on, Cleaner, because you are becoming a little interruptive.
You have if a woman is being promiscuous and she's having casual sex and that guy is not expecting her to have a relationship with him, that's not showing disloyalty. So if you want to say, oh, well, she's never had a boyfriend or something, so we don't know if she's going to cheat on me, you could say that about a girl who has never had a boyfriend or who has never had sex. You don't have a resume, I guess, to show you proof of her loyalty.
So there's no truth that past behavior informs current decisions or future decisions?
The past behavior of having sex with people who you don't owe loyalty to doesn't inform a future decision of whether she will show loyalty to
That's
a boyfriend.
literally the saying, like, oh, honey, I used to sleep around every Tuesday and Sunday, but no, for you, it's going to be only you, babe. Love you so much.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. You don't think that some people, you can be promiscuous and then have a monogamous relationship and settle down with somebody? Do you think that's like a foreign concept?
I wouldn't trust the person as far as I could. If they were like, I have a body count of 100 and just 3 years ago I was going out and banging a guy in my case, banging a girl, every Tuesday and Sunday. I would be like, okay.
Because of illogical assumptions. Like, there's literally no reason to think that.
It's a statistical proof that people generally engage in similar it's very hard for a leopard to change his spots.
It's really not. Like, people can be in relationships and then not be in relationships and be in relationships. Like, this is very normal. People are usually serial monogamous. So they're with one person for like a long period of time. That's the normal for most people. But people can go back and forth between these things. People can go back and forth between having casual sex and being in monogamous relationships very easily. It's literally not. It's not like changing your leopard skin or whatever.
Right. They can, and we see them doing that, and say we don't want to fucking marry them because we see that behavior, and they've proven they're not loyal.
You don't have to marry them. No one's asking you to marry them.
That's not proof of being disloyal, though.
But see, this is
She's
the
not
thing.
being disloyal to anybody.
Whether or not it matters whether I want to marry him or somebody else. We're talking about whether or not we should accept this belief of female promiscuity, like females running around and being promiscuous all they damn well please. And I'm telling you that men, generally speaking, do not want women who are not loyal, who have not shown that they can be loyal in some way, who have not engaged in this promiscuous type behavior for a long-term relationship. They don't want that. And we don't want that in society either. That's a concept of shame in businesses as well.
So this comes back to what I said about how if they're promiscuous for a while and then they get into a relationship and then they're in that relationship for a while, they're proving their loyalty. So after that, if they break up, even if they were promiscuous in the past, they've still demonstrated loyalty, right?
No.
How?
No, if they've been promiscuous in the past, then they're not showing that they're loyal.
But they had a boyfriend.
When they're in a relationship.
They had a boyfriend that they
assessment.
But they have proven that they've been in a relationship, that they've been loyal to that person. So
and what happened to the relationship?
It's exactly if I was applying for a job.
Ended.
Okay, he might have broke up with her,
she might have broke up with him. Yeah, any number of things could have happened.
So you're saying that
no,
girls.
I'm saying it
hold on,
doesn't
wait.
prove loyalty.
So you're saying that girls who have broken up with a boyfriend in the past are also proven to be disloyal, and you shouldn't marry them either.
No, see, if you were applying for a new job and you had a large gap in your resume, just let me finish. You had a large gap in your resume where you have a bunch of jobs where you only were there for a couple months at a time, and your employer looks at your sheet and it was like, huh, that's weird. Why are you only at these jobs for like 2 months at a time? This has happened, for the past 5 years. That's kind of weird, right?
That's so weird. That's not analogous at all.
Yeah, it is analogous.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, because those jobs.
It actually is.
No, I will explain to you if you stop talking.
Women don't understand.
I will explain to you if you stop talking. Dude, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to explain.
You're showing your resume. Like you're
okay, let me explain. So in a job,
you are expected
to stay at, like, there is an expectation to be at that job for long periods of time. When you're having casual sex, there is no expectation to be with that person for a long period of time. So therefore, it is not analogous at all.
It is analogous.
It's not,
actually
because
is.
again, in a job, you have an expectation to be there.
You're-
so
yeah, you're-
that,
you're-
so leaving a job,
you have an
where we're-
expectation to be there.
Where we're
when-
losing the thought here is the qualification to have sex with somebody. Are we presuming you have to be in a relationship to have sex with somebody? Like that is the standard bare minimum in order to have sex. And if so, does it have to be a long-term relationship?
All right, so the conflation that Ghosty is making, all right, is what she believes we're saying. When we're talking about going for an interview for a job, it would be the same concept as whenever a husband or a man and a woman are looking at a long
interviews.
Hold on.
We weren't talking about interviews.
Hold on,
I'm
let him
explaining
finish.
the concept so that you'll understand it, okay? When you're
Okay, well, you're misunderstanding it because you're not talking about the right thing.
Hold on, Ghosty,
and if
let
you
him get through
don't,
his
then you won't
thought.
understand the concept. You won't understand why it's analogous. All
Yeah,
right?
you don't, because
It's
you're not even talking
no,
about the
I
right
understand
thing.
exactly why it's analogous. but you won't if you don't ever let me explain
Hold
it.
on, let's
Then
not
talk
meta
about
this.
holding a job, not talk about interviews. Talk about that
No.
analogy.
No,
Because
no,
that's
no,
what
no.
Paige,
The
that was
analogy
the
fits.
analogy Paige gave.
No, the analogy fits. All right, when you go for a job interview for a job, all right, it's the same thing as if you're going to start dating someone and figure out whether or not you want a long-term relationship with them. If you're going for a contract job, that would be a week, a month, 2 months. That would be the same thing as hookup culture. All right, there's a difference between the two. You're looking at something short-term in a contract. You're looking at a long-term thing whenever you're going, like, to interview with a company. That's how the company is viewing it. If you've had contract jobs,
Okay.
they won't necessarily look at those and say, okay, well, those are bad on your record.
So can we
But
talk
they
about
can
Paige's
look at
analogy
those.
now?
What they can do is look at those and say, I've never seen you work for a company for a long period of time, so I don't see that you're loyal. I see that you've jumped around through a lot of contracts, though, and that doesn't show me you've been loyal to a specific job or a specific company. So
Okay,
I don't
thanks
know
for
if you'll
wasting
be
like
loyal.
3 minutes of time.
It's the
But
same
can-
conceptual understanding of the relationship dynamic. You're just
Yep,
not
okay,
able to
again,
follow it.
we're not talking about that. We're talking about how having casual sex is not proving disloyalty, right? Because you're not
I never said it was
expected.
proving disloyalty.
Hold
I said
on,
it's not
Cleaner,
proving
let him
loyalty.
finish.
It's not
she's,
proving.
She's using misguided rhetoric
Jesus
again,
Christ! It's not proving loyalty. It's not disproving. Like, come on, dude.
This is
It's
where I
not-
think
I never
both
said-
of you,
I never
hold on,
said it
hold
was
on, stop.
disproving.
This is where the clarification needs to come in. Is it an obligation? Is it the standard quo? Is it the bare minimum in order to have sex with somebody that you have to be in a relationship with them? That's where we need to define that, because if that is the case, right, then yes, for a job, if you want to be successful in a job, right, if you want to be locked into longevity for a job, you have to like commit to that, right? But working at like a summer job, college students work summer jobs all the time. It's a casual light job, right? So if we want to be analogous with that's how I would look at that. However, in order to define like that you have to have that longevity before you have sex with somebody, like that's where your issues are coming in between the two of you. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, I think
Yeah.
the issue is that she's misunderstanding what I'm saying.
I'm
Or
not.
she's
I
understanding,
understand what you're
or
saying.
she's understanding what I'm saying, and she's using misguiding rhetoric to try and frame it differently from what I'm actually saying.
Yep,
All
yep,
I'm
yep.
saying is it doesn't prove loyalty.
It doesn't disprove it either.
I didn't say it disproves it. I
So
said
then it's
it
illogical.
proves that
It
you've
makes
been with
no
a lot
fucking-
of casual
So you're literally
relationships
talking about
and
nothing
never
this whole
had
time.
loyalty. You
Go
have
ahead,
a
Brian.
behavioral habit of
Okay,
not
but
being
earlier, wait a
loyal.
minute, Cleaner. Earlier, I asked if the girl was promiscuous for a while and then got into a long-term relationship, right? For like, let's say 2 to 3 years, and she's loyal to that guy all throughout that relationship. Does that not demonstrate loyalty?
To that guy? Is she still with him? Is she staying with him? Yeah, I guess to that guy that would
she
that would prove
demonstrated
loyalty.
Yes, to that
Yeah.
guy. Yes, and
Yeah,
so the next guy, if they break
that
up,
would prove
the
some
next
form
guy.
of loyalty. However,
Okay, so
you don't know
wait,
everything that's going on
wait.
in the relationship, just like you guys say. You don't know everything that's going on. Maybe he broke up
great.
with her. Maybe she broke
That's
up with
great.
him. We don't know.
So-
But
so
yes,
the
to
next
some degree,
person,
it would
if
prove
she
that
was
she has
loyal to
some
that-
form of loyalty.
Okay, well, because earlier you said the opposite, right?
Yeah,
Earlier I
no.
asked you, and you said
No,
no.
I said-
But okay.
You said no because she was
Okay, well,
promiscuous.
maybe
That
if
proves
that's
that.
what you said, I may have not heard you say that part. Because
Okay,
to be
but
fair,
so
we were
just to be
speaking
clear,
over each other a
then-
lot.
Sure. So just to be clear, then, so we're on the same page. If a girl is promiscuous for years, and then she's in a long-term committed relationship also for years, and then something happens and they break up, she has still proven that she can be loyal, right? She's proven loyalty,
Yeah, she's proven loyalty
even though
to
she has a
some
history of
degree.
being promiscuous.
To some degree, she's proven loyalty, yes. But like I said,
Cool.
it would still be where you would be taking a risk assessment. You would be looking at it and saying, okay, well, yeah, so she's changed her ways and she's turned around and tried to start being more loyal. I don't know all the details of the relationship, but the guy that she's trying to get into a relationship with now would probably want to ask some other questions and figure out, why did you leave him? Like, what was going on? You know, because he sees red flags from before she was with that guy. Red
Okay.
flag behavior.
I mean, wouldn't that be fair for just anybody you're getting in a relationship? Like,
Yes, absolutely. But the topic of this debate is accepting female promiscuity.
so that doesn't have
not
to do.
anyone's.
The point is that doesn't have to do with her being promiscuous, though. Like,
Well, no, the risk assessment does have to do with her being promiscuous.
but again, the promiscuity doesn't have anything to do with loyalty. That's our whole point. Like, if you're being promiscuous,
Yeah, no,
that
it
doesn't
does.
mean that you can't be loyal. That you're not a
It
loyal
does.
person because you're not
What you're
committed.
showing is-
You're not committed to any of those guys.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily show that you're being loyal to anyone. That doesn't
Okay.
necessarily show that you're being disloyal to anyone. But what it does do is create a red flag in a man's mind that shows him that you do not understand the concept of loyalty or have not proven that you understand the concept of loyalty because you've never been in a long-term relationship. You have, however, had a whole lot of short-term relationships with people that were one-night stands or whatever they were, hookup culture type crap, right?
So therefore, that's the same for a girl who has never had a boyfriend or has never
No,
had
it's
sex
not.
because
It's
she has
not.
not proven
Red flag
she has
behavior is different,
she
all right?
has not proven that she can be loyal to somebody.
If a woman has never had a relationship,
She
then
hasn't
she's
proven
never
it.
she's not proven in a relationship that she would be loyal or disloyal either way.
Exactly.
The
Just
thing
like
is, though, what
just
you're
like
misunderstanding,
promiscuous girls.
what you're misunderstanding is the promiscuity is still viewed as red flag behavior, and because she hasn't shown loyalty during the red flag behavior, that's not proving loyalty, and it still raises a red flag in a man's mind. You're still not showing me why we should accept this, though. It's red flag behavior in men's minds for a reason. It's because we
What's
see
the
this type of
reason?
behavior. I'm explaining that to you.
Okay.
I'm giving you the understanding. So it's because we see this type of behavior, and we don't see the woman has been loyal to another man yet, but she screwed around with a bunch of other dudes.
What if she was trying to date those dudes and they didn't want to date her?
Then she's made
They
a lot
just
of
wanted to
bad
have sex with her.
choices, which would be another red flag.
That she was. Wait, what if they were like manipulative
Then she's made bad choices, which would be another red
by
flag.
being manipulated?
So
Yeah,
if
true.
you're 17 and you get manipulated
Yeah.
by like the first 3 guys you date, it's like, oh god.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah, it is a possibility. I'm not saying that in
We
a
should shame
monolith,
her,
every
not the
time
guys
that we see
manipulating.
that it's always that way. What I'm saying is, yes, generally speaking, most people would view that as negative behavior, that you had made a bad choice. You had put yourself in a shitty situation. You had done something you shouldn't have done. Like, why would you swim out into the middle of shark-infested water when you have a cut or are on your period?
Well,
That's
she's
stupid.
17 and she was manipulated, so she thought he was going to stay
Yeah,
with her.
you're creating a very hyper-specific situation.
This is very common, though.
Very
no,
common.
It's not very common. Very common would be
Yes, it is.
51%
It really
of
is.
the
It's very
population.
common for boys too
It's
to be
not very
manipulated by
common.
girls when they're young. Like people.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree
People have
that
bad
children can
dating.
be manipulated.
It's very
I
common
don't disagree
to have
with that
bad
at all.
dating
What I'm saying
experiences
is,
in your early life.
what you're talking about being manipulated into something isn't necessarily 51% of the population doing that all the time. Like, what you're saying isn't performatively true. All right?
All
Do
right.
you really
this is
believe
a-
that? Do you really believe that over 50% of the relationships that have happened in the country, just here in America, have been through manipulation?
Of current relationships, I have no idea how to assess
I
that.
said 50% of all relationships in
Of
America.
all
Do you
existing,
think?
like,
Yes. Do
in
you think
history?
more? Do you think? Sure, we'll go all of history. Do you think more than 50% of the relationships have been because of manipulation? Like someone manipulated someone else into the relationship?
I don't know. It's hard to say because the majority of relationships that have ever existed are probably going to be failed relationships. So why did those relationships fail? I mean, it doesn't have to be manipulation.
So does
but
that mean no or yes?
I have there's no way I can assess this.
It's possible.
It is possible.
It's possible. No, I don't think so, though. I really don't. The way that Ghosty's using manipulation, because personally, I would say that everything that we do in life is a manipulation. Everything, every single thing that we do.
It's a very manipulative
thing.
That's very weird.
It all is.
So
Anytime
nothing
that
is
you're
genuine?
doing,
You're never
you're
genuine?
manipulating numbers. Anytime that everything that you do in life is manipulating outcomes for the more favorable outcome.
This is a self-report.
Sounds a little
boy.
narcissistic.
What?
I can agree. I can agree with Cleaner to a small degree, right? They're not all manipulation is bad manipulation,
Right.
I think we can also
they're talking
agree
about the
that
negative,
I
though.
think we can also agree that most women are naturally more manipulative, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I think because women seek resources, that is our goal. Like instincts is to seek resources while men provide them. So we have
I
to
wouldn't
have
say
some
that's a
type of
manipulation either.
manipulative tactic to some degree to get to that point. That's why we wear makeup. We manipulating into believing we're beautiful, and none of us are.
I feel like you could say that for the other side too, though. Like,
Yeah,
men
no,
manipulate for
absolutely can,
sex, and
You're
stuff
right.
like
No,
which
no,
is the
Ghosty,
resource
you
that they're
absolutely
going
can.
after, right? Like,
Guys
sex is the resource they're going
that work their ass off to get a whole lot of money and a big house and all that, and they do that. And I'm not saying all of them do it just because they want to get a good woman. Maybe they've already got a good woman and they just want to provide her a good house. I don't know. But yeah, we all do that, okay? We all do manipulate things in our environment for a more positive outcome. But I think what you were referencing was the negative form of manipulation, which is what I was engaging with. The conversation was being engaged on the negative form of manipulation that you were talking about, in which someone is negatively manipulated into something.
Yeah,
and
you're the one who brought up that everything is manipulation. So we were just talking about bad
because I wanted to clarify. I wanted to clarify between the two. All right, because a lot of people don't do this clarity, and the clarity is important. No, then
Well, now it's clear.
The clarity is important when you're talking about a negative manipulation to put someone into a relationship. I can't see that over 50% of the relationships in America have happened through manipulation, like negative manipulation. I don't have any studies that have shown me that. I don't have any data that's shown me that, other than the divorce rate of like women divorcing men 80% of the time. I don't really see anything else that would like lead me in some direction to think that maybe there's a performative percentage that is going on, or a strong correlative percentage that's going on, right? You see what I'm saying? I don't see how you can.
That's why I said it's impossible for me to assess that.
Yeah,
but
we
I
both
said
we can't. We don't.
It's possible.
And see, this is why I said the language you were using earlier was misguiding.
No, that's
all
why
right?
that's why you've been doing this entire time.
Ryan said most earlier. Most would be over 50%. Most would be very close to like 80, 90% would be most.
I think he gave an example.
No, he said most. He said most. And I said, no,
I
that's
said
not
most.
true. Most relationships are not manipulative.
Wait, I never said that.
Why
I never said
you,
most
Ghosty.
relationships are
Yeah, you
manipulative.
did.
I never
He
said
didn't
that.
say
you
that.
did.
He
No,
gave an
I
example.
definitely never said that.
Yeah, I said most early relationships are like most young people. Their first relationships tend to like have bad outcomes.
Yeah.
Like lots of people have bad relationships.
I don't
early
even
on.
believe that. I don't even believe most of them tend to have bad outcomes. Because
I mean,
don't
you
have a
learn
stat
you're
to
learning
go
a
off
lot
of.
in
I
your
don't-
early
I don't
dating
have any-
experience.
Yeah, I don't have
You
any
get played
data to show
around
me
it.
that like people's first relationships are necessarily 51% of the time bad.
Okay, do you need like data for every single thing? Like, can you just use life experience, or just like, you know?
No,
what I
I
mean?
wouldn't use life experience when we're talking about 350
data
million
can't
people, because
prove
my life
every
experience
single-
can only touch so many people, which
You
would
can
not
use common
be
sense.
350 million.
You can use common sense and life experience because data can't prove every single aspect of life.
You're right. You can use common sense.
Yeah.
Men
Okay,
commonsensically understand that promiscuous women have not proven they're loyal, and you are still not showing me why I should accept female promiscuity as being a positive thing or even a neutral thing when almost like the vast majority of men would say that it's negative.
Yeah, I would
Not
say
the
it starts
prompt.
at neutral. It starts at neutral. Like any phenomenon starts neutral, and then you evaluate that
Still not
phenomenon.
neutral,
and you
though.
the
It's
outcome.
not
I'm
even
sorry.
neutral.
I thought I was talking for the first time in a while. So you would evaluate a phenomenon
It's
and
not
look
neutral.
at the outcomes. And okay, well, it starts neutral, and you're saying it's not neutral. So you need to demonstrate why it's not neutral.
No, society right now views
Which you have
it.
failed to do
You've
consistently.
already conceded that society views it as a negative behavior.
No, I've conceded that people in society do, but not all society. No, I don't think so.
I didn't say all. You're using misguiding language again. I'm not saying
I was
all
saying
people
I
in
don't think
society.
majority
I'm speaking
necessarily,
generally. Generally, our social construction is to shame promiscuity.
Yeah,
It's a shameful behavior.
People who
I think that's a
shame
learned
tend to
behavior.
cause harm. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think that's a
I'm
learned
gonna
behavior
go
from the
ahead.
past.
I'm gonna go ahead and let this one move into closing statements. I think we've kind of gone around the scope of the prompt without really nailing it down, like what the prompt is and what it's asking. So I think open panel should be a little bit more fun because then we can run down these avenues a little more strongly. So Paige, Paige, I leave it to you. Would you like to give your closing statement, please?
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I'll make it short but sweet. Throughout this debate, our opponents have failed to illustrate what the benefit to female promiscuity is to society. They have frequently relied on individual outcomes and engaged in fallacies such as misleading statements and the appeal to common sense fallacy. I remain unconvinced. I believe that the harm that has been demonstrated by myself and my debate partner, Cleaner, more than makes it evident that the net negatives to society outweigh the net positives were we to outlaw this behavior or even to engage in further shame, because as I've illustrated, it's at an all-time high. And there is revenues and other like methods that we can utilize statistically to substantiate this point. In short, don't be a skank. Get married, have some babies, and live a good and God-fearing life.
Thank you, Paige. And Cleaner to you.
I would say we've entered into this debate to try and get an understanding of why people should accept or even tolerate female promiscuity. I think the concept of acknowledging something would just be understanding it is a thing that happens. And so I wouldn't say that society doesn't acknowledge that it happens. I would say that we don't tolerate it to a mass degree and we don't accept it to a mass degree. We attempted to engage with our opponents and they were not able to performatively give us an example of how doing this would be a benefit or even a neutral to society, or why we shouldn't shame this type of behavior because of some kind of negative outcome for women or men in general. All they were able to do was continually try to use misguiding rhetoric, continue to try and change the point over to a different point, which we went through each and every one, no matter what they moved to, and disproved each of them, and came back to the prompt and never got an answer still that would give us any reason to understand why it should be neutral even.
Thank you, Cleaner. Ghosty to you. You're muted, Ghosty.
All right, so the prompt was not to prove the benefits of promiscuity to society, it's whether we should accept it. The other side hasn't proven what the negative outcomes are for society. They have relied on their opinions of what a bad outcome is for an individual, but they have not demonstrated how this negatively affects society. And in my opinion, we should accept it because I believe in personal freedom as long as there isn't a risk of harm to anybody else. Consensual sex doesn't pose that risk. There's also just like personal benefits to the women who have sex. If they're not feeling shamed, they don't, have guilt and hate themselves and whatever else. Like they just feel better, leads to better a sense of self and everything like that. So, and even in the end, like if you really want to look at it, if you're talking about like, oh, well, these women aren't going to be able to find guys, if guys were more accepting of women having casual sex, and again, not to the extremes, and I'm not even shaming guys who like don't want women who have that, but if we did live in that society, that wouldn't even be a problem, right? Because the guys wouldn't judge her for that in the first place. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this debate was it was weird, but I don't think they've proven the harms to this at all. So, yeah.
Thank you, Ghosty. Ryan, to you.
Yeah, I think I agree. They definitely haven't proven harms. I mean, the prompt was that we should accept, tolerate. So generally, like it's like if we're examining a phenomenon in society, we start from a neutral position, then we look at the outcomes, we look at the context around it, and we decide whether or not it's a good or bad thing in general. And they've made arguments such as like some men might not want to marry them, which is probably true. But if that stigma was reduced, then some of those men might actually change their tune on that. I did bring up some of the specific harms that come from the stigma, such as reduced STI testing. Also, I talked about how there were women who were there was hiring studies that showed that women who were viewed as promiscuous were less likely to get hired. So this hurts those women in their job opportunities, and specifically, it's not coming from them having sex; it's coming from people shaming them for having sex. And so that's worse health, missed jobs, and just being silenced in general because people are shaming them for talking about their experiences, and that makes them feel like they regret that sex more, which again, the regret that women tend to experience at a higher rate than men when it comes to casual sex is mostly or largely causally tied specifically to that shame. As well as whether or not they enjoyed it, and so that brings us to the the orgasm gap. So make your girls come, guys. That's my advice.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in chat for the open panel dumpster fire, so that all of you can start hopping backstage as you so choose. If you want to jump in, we're going to have some fun. Ghosty, I did mute you just because the typing was overriding Ryan's closing. To the super chat, Single Dads Club comes in with a big 10. I love tomatoes. Yes, tomatoes loves you. And to the panelists, you're welcome to respond to any of these that come in, preferably short and sweet. If nobody says anything, I'll just keep moving on. Rude Mud Crabbing with a big 5. Shame has a utility. Nobody ever fucked their life up by not being a 304, but plenty have fucked their lives up by being a 304. Any thoughts? Plumpy enjoying their new membership. Welcome to the Mater Club, Plumpy. Noah R with the big 20 says, I say we just deport all the 304s.
If we're not careful, we might have to be facing that reality soon. Because if the king has a bad day and decides that he wants to deport all the hoes, then
oh boy,
doesn't he host like Victoria's Secret fucking shows anyways? I don't know, but whatever.
That's
and
good
keep on them
point.
in the dressing rooms.
What king?
Good point. Singles Dad Club in with the big 10. Such a huge dichotomy. We all love sex, but I would question who does it more, men or women.
Who does it hurt more is the question, right?
Who does it hurt more?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, women tend to regret at higher rates, but it's mostly tied to the social shame and the orgasm gap.
Yeah.
I believe that like we've tried to discuss in the beginning, the moral construct women had got eroded by this concept of running around doing whatever. It devalued them in men's view and in other women's view. And so I think it hurt women more, because now we're at a point where women don't have the moral high ground. When they used to have the moral high ground and they knew something bad was happening in a community, they could say, hey, I think something bad's happening over there. Can you go check into it, Ted? If their husband's name was Ted, right? And Ted would go over and say, hey, man, are you guys okay over here? What's going on? They don't have that anymore, though. And most of the time, husbands will even just be like, it's none of our fucking business. I'm not going to do it.
Again, you're just calling something bad because it's bad. You're not giving any reason why it's bad, but that's been pretty much the whole debate. So,
No, I've given you tons of reasons throughout this. I've even refuted, like, Paige and I have refuted every point that you tried to make on why shaming it is a bad thing. The thing that you haven't done is given us a reason why we shouldn't shame it. And that's what we've asked you for. And I really did hope that you actually had a reason, because I'd like to hear a really good one. I haven't heard one yet.
There's no reason to shame it. That's our point.
There is.
Well, and that's not necessarily the prompt. The prompt is to acknowledge, tolerate, and accept, right? If we said shame, then it would be a different story. But their prompt to defend is acknowledge, tolerate, and accept, and that would be the same as heavyweight people. Like, we should acknowledge, tolerate, and accept them, right? Do we accept them still as people? Do we accept them, you know, like, and it doesn't mean what it means is we don't reject them as people. That would be your stance, why we should reject it, why we should not tolerate it, and why we should not acknowledge that they are that they're, you know, people.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, the opposite of that is shaming. Like, if we're not tolerating, accepting it, then we're shaming, we're discouraging, right? So that's where we're coming from.
And like, during this debate, I did try to bring it back to getting them to give us a reason, but we also, Paige and I did also engage in the shaming concept, you know, like refuting why they were saying shaming was bad, even though that wasn't the prompt and that wasn't where we should go. I knew they'd want to take it there. And so we engaged in that a bit, right? But we didn't get from their side a positive engagement on why it should be a neutral thing. Like, why we should just accept it in society. Why would it be a positive thing? Why would promiscuity be a positive thing? You're not giving me a reason that's performative, or that we could even say would be a general understanding. Like, I'm really forgiving in this. I'm willing to say, if you could show us something that would actually be a common sense reason, or a general thing where you could say it would be good for women in some way,
I think it's actually on
I would
you
say, okay, that would be cool.
To give a reason,
we haven't heard that.
We're just saying we accept the
affirmative.
behavior. You need to give a reason for why you shouldn't accept it. If we just accept it because that's their choice to have consensual
You're on the
sex,
affirmative.
You should be like, oh, well, I don't accept this, and this is why I don't accept it.
Right, and we
I
did
accept
do
someone's
that.
personal choice.
We did do that, but you did
You
not
just
give
said
us
it was
a reason
bad.
why
You just
we
said it was
should
icky.
accept it.
You were like, icky.
The prompt that you guys had, the prompt that you guys picked out was, should society acknowledge, tolerate, and even accept female promiscuity, which gave y'all the affirmative. So that would mean that you should be giving us a reason for why we should. We should be picking holes in it, which we did constantly. And you didn't give us a reason that was a neutral or a positive for why we should accept it.
Kazumi with the big 5 says, unwanted babies and STDs are the bad things.
I agree. Those are problems that can come from promiscuity. And if they had talked more about those things, then they might have made a more compelling case.
We did.
Vibe in with the big 10 says, females are not promiscuous by nature. However, what the left is pushing is that they should go against nature.
That's hilarious, Vibe.
That's actually crazy that that he brought that specific thing up, because at the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, feminists at that time were fighting the hypersexuality and objectification of women.
Yeah, of men doing it.
No, listen,
So-
they were, no, hold on. They were fighting it between men and women both, because they were fighting the anti-suffragettes as well as men, all right? They were fighting both, saying that the hypersexuality shouldn't be happening, but that if it happens, it will be objectifying women. Also, the objectification that they believed men had at the time was wrong.
Okay.
Rude Mud Crabbing with a big 5. Do people think that promiscuity isn't also bad for men, or do we ignore it due to women control the sexual marketplace trope?
Oh no, I agree. It's bad for men as well. That just wasn't the
I would
prompt,
agree it's
that's all.
neutral. I would also say it's neutral for men, and it can be bad and it can be good, especially if it's, you know, happening, if it doesn't align with their own preferences.
If it's done responsibly, consensually, safely, then I have no reason not to accept somebody's personal choices that aren't hurting anybody else.
Typical liberal assumption is that to say it's neutral, because if you had to admit that it was wrong, then you have to admit that you shouldn't be doing it, and then we would be right. So that would be a hard position to take, wouldn't it?
It's not about admitting it because we don't believe that. So it's kind of silly to say, but okay.
Yeah, if we thought it was bad inherently, then yeah, we would have to say that it's bad. Thanks, Paige.
Yeah, no problem. Just explaining, just common sense, just basic logic here. Yeah, great.
Single dads club with the Big Ten. Yeah, but all of you are missing the cycle year by year. There's new women that become legal age every year. New product. Shots fired.
I hate it. I really hate it whenever people refer to other people as things, as products like that. I don't necessarily disagree with the rest of what you're saying, Single Dads Club, but that's for guys in that age group.
Didn't you say that when you said that men think of women as sexual objects when they have casual sex?
I said women are pushing themselves to be believed.
Yeah.
To be believed or looked at as sexual objects whenever they're engaging in that. By men, yes, by men.
Oh.
Okay.
When you advertise something as something, people see it as the thing you're advertising it as. Like if I advertise a candy bar as a candy bar with no nuts, but it has nuts in it, people go to buy it because they think it has no nuts. But they bite into it, lo and behold, it's got fucking nuts.
Yeah, having sex with somebody doesn't
But
mean you
that
have to
still means
objectify them.
I advertised it and people view it as something without nuts until they buy it.
Okay, and that is their problem. This is exactly what we're fighting against.
Well,
the
then why are you running
objectification.
around being promiscuous? If you don't want to be objectified, then don't sell yourself as just a sex object. Sell
She's
yourself
not.
as something
She's
more.
just having sex because she wants to. She's not saying, hey, I'm just a sex object and that's why I'm having sex. She's just having sex.
Well, she doesn't understand that's what she's doing.
She does understand. We're fighting against the shaming.
Necessarily mean that they're not doing that
We are on the
thing.
side of fighting against the shaming and objectification of women who freely have sex. That's what we're doing.
You can't tell me that she's doing that regularly. It's not informing of who she is, or it's not an integral part of her personality.
It doesn't have to be a part of her personality. I mean, if you like to have sex, you like to have sex. Like, that doesn't make you a sex object.
That's a part of your personality.
That doesn't make you a sex
if
object.
You like having sex with random guys, that is a part of your personality. How is it not?
I mean, it doesn't inform on your behavior.
You're literally
behavior
saying that
besides
she has no personality if that's all she's doing.
It doesn't
she's just
inform
an
on
object.
your behavior any further than you like to have
that
sex.
She's objectified.
No,
But
you
even
are
in those
objectifying
encounters,
her.
yeah, you're even in those encounters, they don't have to be objectification. Like even a one night stand, you don't have to be objectifying each other. Like that's like you might think so, like, but that sounds like it maybe from personal experience. When you have sex with someone one time, you are only objectifying them, but like it doesn't have to be like that, dude. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
I would say category 2 women put themselves in category 2, and men understand who they are. That's what I would say to that.
I think women come in a lot more categories than 2.
Rude Mud Crab says with a big 5, the conservatives went with the, but what was she wearing defense? It was super ineffective. I thought that was as well. Because if that's the direction we go, then even at that, like, bikinis would just mean every woman that wears a bikini is a hoe. So I think we have to be mindful how we say that. And I mean, right. I know complete virgins that slay in a little black dress, but some would deem that as being, but some would deem a little black dress as a hoish outfit, right? So
is it coochie length? Is it like just covering
a
the
little
coochie?
black dress, a little black? Well, no coochies are out because obviously they can't be out, right?
She could have as much cleavage as she wants. That doesn't mean she's sleeping with somebody that night. Like,
I've seen some pretty slutty outfits, especially like with celebrities, where they've got literally just like a piece of fabric covering the boobs.
Pasties?
Yeah, and like literally underwear with a see-through bottom, like Kim Kardashian, or.
And that still doesn't mean that she's gonna have sex
So
with someone.
we would say that she's not modest in the way she dresses, but we can't necessarily always pinpoint her behavior outside of that or behind closed doors, right?
Yeah,
no, but
some women, it's just like a fashion thing.
Right, but I don't think it's unfair then for a guy, like, let's say you're going on a date and you're wearing a really short dress, a guy to be like, you know, like wondering like, okay, what is this girl about? Because like I thought we were on a classy date and she's wearing like this super short.
Well,
you know,
in all fairness, you guys were talking about club clothes.
Yeah.
Not
right,
dates.
and that's why I was saying the context of what he's saying matters. When like we ask, hey, what was she wearing when she went to that club? We're talking about the club itself, not a girl going to a beach in a bikini, you know? Like, I mean, I'm a rational man. I can understand a girl wants to go to a beach, she wants to get a tan, she wants to hang out in a bikini, whatever.
What do you think the temperature is inside a club? When you're dancing.
It's not always the same. Some
With
of them are
sweaty
hotter,
people
some of them
everywhere.
are cooler.
Actually, if you're in Vegas, some clubs you do wear a bikini too. I mean, it just depends on where you're going, what you're doing. I don't know. I think, I mean, technically we're on the beach or at the swimming pool in our underwear. You know what I mean? And I think that we can. I don't know if we can always judge a book by its cover. I think modesty is appealing, but I don't know if it always is. I mean, I know girls that will go out to the bars in sweatpants and still be total hoe bags. So
yeah, for real, exactly. Like,
to be fair to that, though, Sarah, what we're trying to explain here is the concept of not getting past the cover of the book, because the cover of the book is showing you bright, shiny shit that you want to see at the end of the night, and that's all you see until the next day you go home and you're like, I don't give a shit because it was shiny last night. Right? They're objectifying themselves. That's what we're saying.
Well, that's the men. Again, that's
like,
the men objectifying them. Like they're just trying to.
No,
have sex.
it's the women putting them in the position to be objectified. It is the women objectifying
but
themselves
the men are doing
as
the
an
objectifying
advertisement mechanism to get what they want from a man.
You just said it. The men are
night.
doing the objectifying. We're just gonna go in circles, but the men are doing the objectifying. She's just trying
Both
to have
are,
casual
is what I'm
sex.
saying.
You did say that.
All right.
I'm saying both
we'll
are.
move on from it. Maybe somebody on panel will
Sure.
come in and add something to it. Single Stack Club with the Big Ten. He's saying Me Too movement went too far and men are cautious now. Am I right? And I think I do agree with that statement.
Yeah.
I do agree.
I mean,
It's a little blown out of
That's why a lot of
proportion,
men
I
have
think,
checked out of
but-
dating. Yeah.
That's
I think
so silly. Like, come on.
No,
like,
it's not.
It's
Listen,
not
you
wrong,
don't understand
though.
it.
It's not wrong.
You don't-
What he's saying is grounded. Not saying that it's right, but he's not.
I just think that shit gets blown way out of proportion. Like, guys are like, I can't talk to a girl because if I go up to her and say hi, she's gonna Me Too me. Like, I don't know.
Girls
That's
have done
cope,
it.
dude. That is
Yeah.
such cope.
Girls have done it
Sure,
though,
that's
Ghosty.
not. Again, you guys are talking about exceptions,
happened,
right?
right?
We're not
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
exactly.
the norms.
Right,
an
right. But we're
exception
also
if most
talking
people
about
listen.
risk assessment.
Yeah.
And
We're
I
also
think that
talking
there's
about
also
risk
That's
assessment.
like saying if I talk
Listen,
to.
hold
That's
on,
like a
hold on,
girl
hold on,
saying
hold
if
on,
I
hold
talk to a guy, he's gonna rape me.
look.
So therefore, I'm not
I'm
gonna
going
talk
to give you
to
some
any
fair
guys.
room here on this, okay?
Yeah.
If we were talking about a guy getting his hand smacked or a guy getting just turned down for the night, guys have been putting up with that since the beginning of time, all right? We don't give a shit about that. It doesn't destroy us on a social level or have some guy shank us because some girl said that we did something we didn't do.
What
But
if you did do it?
because women can cry wolf and say, oh, this guy did X thing, that guy might disappear tomorrow.
But
Yeah,
what if
and
that guy
guys
did?
might-
How society is constructed still.
Guys might rape women, and women still talk to men. Men still talk to women, even though she might accuse him of something. Like,
and
this is
men
so
still talk to
stupid.
women. I'm
so
not
it's
saying
way
all
blown
of
out
them.
of proportion. I'm
No.
just saying, like, a lot of this is just so like
No,
so
it's
much
risk
really.
assessment. It's
Not
risk
really.
All right,
assessment.
we'll
really
save
is.
That's
that.
all it is. It's
been,
just risk
it's already
assessment.
been over 20 minutes, so I do want to be respectful of the panelists waiting backstage. So we'll just run through a few of these. Chuck in Tennessee says, with the Big Ten, I am the bacon and lettuce, just waiting for the tomato. I love being a tomato over here. Rude Mud Crab with the Big Five. Red Hats believe you have the autonomy to do what I feel is acceptable within my subjective framework. They do not understand autonomy. Evan Lord, I hope everything came out all right, Evan. I am having poop attacks and I'm praying it goes away before the gauntlet. Why has God trolled the world by having a coffee as a natural decongestive? Oh my goodness. And Evan is backstage, so I'm hoping he's not streaming from the toilet right now.
We will know.
Says,
We're gonna know.
Chuck says, this is why he's always quiet on panel, right? He's probably got the shitter right underneath him. Chuck in Tennessee with Big Five. I believe in unalive for dealers people. I think
What
that
does it
was
mean?
on the criminal. That was during the criminal shaming criminals conversation.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I think that
got
had to do with the drug dealers. He probably couldn't put the word drug in there. Evan
yeah.
Lord says, I am back and I apologize for the too open personal comment. My tism and tiredness has negatively impaired my judgment. Here's another 5 tomato.
We forgive you, Evan.
And
Thanks,
Nate
Evan.
with the big 5 says, shame, shame, shame.
Yeah, ring that alert bell.
Ding,
Ding
ding. I
dong.
need a big bell for this one. Chuck says with another 5, love the tomato fun. Yes, love it, like it, and everybody contribute to it. Keep the show running, the lights on, and the ability for me to continue finding great panelists like these fine folks. Chuck says with another 5, I see 3 females on panel. That is confirmed.
Don't be nice, or don't be mean to Cleaner like that.
Chuck says
Right.
again, being loose means you
Are-
don't value your body.
Are you saying that one of the ladies on the panel doesn't look like a lady and they look like a dude instead, Ryan? Is that what you're saying?
I was calling you a lady.
He said there's 3 ladies
Well,
on the
that would
panel. I
mean
see
that would
3
mean
of
one
them.
of
Yeah.
us,
I think
Ryan,
it's
is not a lady then.
Yeah, so you're calling one of the ladies
Oh,
a dude?
I didn't think they were
Is that what
counting
you're saying?
Sarah.
See, this is the
Yeah,
misleading language that you guys use all the
I
time
just
to
didn't
try
think they
and
were
fuck
counting
us
Sarah.
up.
I don't
This
think
is
it's
the
a
fucking mental
Here's a
gymnastics
taste
you
of-
have been giving us all fucking night that we've been dealing
You
with.
use mental gymnastics all the time to try and
One of you
put
was
your
including
worldview.
me.
You should be an
in the
Olympian
top
at
I was
this
not
point.
including Sarah.
The other one of you was not. I get it. It's
I thought
okay.
I think they were saying that I'm a female, right? Like that was. I think that was the meme.
If
he
so,
was
they
right.
can't
No,
fucking count
he-
because
he
there are
said
3
that-
women
Oh
up
my
here.
Yeah, there
God.
already were. Yeah, so I guess I
Kindergarten.
fucked up there.
All
You
right,
said
Chuck
that
in
we were talking
Tennessee
something about
says,
women's opinions or
as a
something.
real man, you don't have sex until the relationship is established. I love it when real men speak. And a random guy, this is the last one for now. We'll get through the rest of them here shortly. Says with the big 50, shots are being fired at all on panel. Ghostly is 90% rhetoric. Ryan can't stop talking about exceptions to the rule instead of arguing for his normative claims. And the mod, that fucking bitch, can't stop cutting in to save them from. I'm saying what he probably wanted to say. Can't save them from arguments being made by the negative side. Right side kind of wins by default. I'm just trying. I will say I usually don't jump in too often, but when I see the scope we're outside of the scope or things being specifically said that I know it means one thing, but one thing's being said, I do want to chime in because you as the audience deserves the clarification and the correctness of the argument. And just like the prompt being laid out the way it is, we have specifications we need to meet in that regard. Okay, is everybody ready for some crazy ass gauntlet, open panel, dumpster fire, bogus, ridiculous? I don't even know
Bring it
what's
on,
about
bitches.
to happen.
Almost. 1 second.
Degenerate. Shame. Oh my god.
Oh no, he's drinking alcohol and smoking. Oh no.
Yeah, so degenerate. Alcohol leads to worse outcomes than having sex. Like, come on.
What are you talking about?
Shit.
Alcohol's fucking awesome, and it doesn't give me any
It
STDs.
is awesome, but it also leads to
Amen.
DUIs, bar fights, fucking.
Is he getting in
who
a
knows
car
what
right
else.
now? Is
my
he going
God,
to a
here
bar
we
and getting a
go.
fighting?
All right. Oh, that was messy. Everything just went super slow on me as soon as I pushed the video on. All right. Rules of the panel. Most of you are very familiar. Actually, I don't think I have to say them very much, but keep the interruptions.
W. Evan Lord.
Look, is he in his bathroom? Is that a shower curtain behind you?
I think it is.
No,
I think
everything.
it is
It's a
too.
window curtain.
That's a window curtain.
I
Your
don't
toilet
know.
is facing
Like
strange
the story.
Don't forget
direction.
to flush.
That's a window curtain.
All right, keep the interruptions to a minimal. Have some fun, but most of all, when I start talking, you shut the fuck up. All right, Nova. I know you want to dig in here. Have at it.
I figured I would come and help represent the 304s a little bit. I might not actually be one, but I can put myself into their shoes.
That's what all of them
ladies
say.
and gentlemen. I've got my lollipop. I'm fresh out of the shower. No bra for all of you, just to piss them all off. Let's go.
Not
I just
pissing
want to
me
know
off.
what
I don't care either
what
way.
guys have been hurt by thoughts. Like, this is such a weird take for any guy to be arguing against. Like, oh no, get your vagina off of me.
Oh, they've been hurt.
Flo,
They've been hurt, Flo.
thinking
What in
hurts
the
a lot of
absolute
guys.
Dog shit is wrong with you. What is the deal with these dudes who are like, no, keep your filthy vagina away. We should not accept this. Stop accepting it, you old fuck. Nobody cares. The only people mad about pussy being available is the ones not getting pussy. So how do you fuck that up to where it's too freely available, yet you're still getting none enough to be disgruntled about it? Sorry, go ahead, Nova.
And let me add
No,
in
you're
as a kind reminder to all of our viewers. You can send money in and boot anybody off panel except the 4 up here with me. Ghosty, Ryan, Paige, and Cleaner cannot be booted. They have immunity for the night because they took time out of their evening to be here for you, and you can't boot them. But everybody below me is free to boot as you please. And sitting backstage, I still have Rusty, Dragon Rage, Trippy Cast, Chuck, and Hasidic Kaiju. You'll need to cam up for me backstage when you get an opportunity, but they're all hanging backstage waiting for somebody to leave or get booted and shoo away, so on and so forth. So you know the drill, maters. All right, and I believe I took it from you, Nova. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Paige. Was it Paige? I forget who was talking, who was getting ready to talk.
Wasn't me, no.
I just said my thing. Everybody's stunned into silence.
You flattened them all. You did. You just took them all by surprise.
All right, go home now. Go home and consider your take on things.
I will
guess,
say,
Cleaner, do you
like-
want to engage with what he said? Or I'm sorry, Evan, go ahead.
Or I'd say like there's one problem of promiscuity that I'm kind of like thinking of is that it's France and
France.
like there's like a problem with kids like of false paternity, so much so that DNA tests are pretty much illegal. I think it's France and Israel where it's illegal to get one, where I would say like having societal chaos for just like going that far is a problem. And I know France has like a culture traditionally of being more free about relationships and like butchering that promiscuity. Yep.
Are you still
Just for the
pooping?
France thing? You
I
can
don't know.
get it.
I don't know what he's referencing. What are you referencing?
Just
Like,
real quick, for the France thing, you can get a paternity test through a court. You just can't do it privately. You have to do it through but you can get one. It's not like completely barred. You just have to go through a court hearing.
I
It's
think the
not
problem would
Israel
be the
either.
fact that they're making paternity tests not legal. Like, that just seems weird to me.
Well, it's illegal to have done outside of court. You have to have due cause, but it's not illegal in Israel.
Oh, all right. I was wrong about that one. I just
Yeah,
know
no, I had to look that up because that was a new one for me. I hadn't heard that one yet.
I'd say like that's kind of like a problem that I could see, like both male and female. But I know that women are like the gatekeepers of having children, whether they can choose to keep it or not. Like, and that's like where I would kind of bring that into like the discussion, because yeah, if you don't know for certain that your kid is actually yours, that could cause a lot of problems in society.
Do you want to know how to prevent knocking a girl up and having her abort your baby?
Don't have
Butt
sex with her.
Exactly.
Anal?
I was
No,
actually, that's,
but really, abstinence is key, folks. If you don't want to end up in stupid predicaments, don't do stupid shit. Consequences are key.
Blowjobs save lives.
You accept
And,
that reality.
You're gay, John. I don't care.
We also talked about being responsible. Like, of course, like bad things can come from having sex in general, but like as long as people are being responsible and safe, like
I can't even talk to
would,
Flo backstage.
We would say is fine.
I'm not going backstage.
Yeah.
I know.
Like, to
Even
be
if
clear,
he's back there,
we might even agree that we should shame certain kinds of promiscuous behavior, but it's not the promiscuity inherently that we would shame. It would be like doing it irresponsibly without getting like STI testing and stuff like that.
Can I ask you guys something? Because I missed the beginning of this. Are you guys at all shaming any of the guys who are constantly going to like OF and all that stuff? I mean, where's that accountability? I'm just
absolutely, but that's not the topic.
Right. You can
well, we
ask
can
that.
move it into that topic because you can't have it both ways. You want to play it from both ends of the middle. You want women to do one thing, but then you want to shame them on the other. You got broads jumping through hoops. You'd realize that, don't you?
No, I don't know if we've got like all of them.
Men could single-handedly end OnlyFans tomorrow.
I would agree with you that we should address it on both sides, and I would be very fair in addressing it on both sides. I should say, men and women both shouldn't behave in hookup culture. It's not good for people in general.
No, it's not. But they are, and then now you've got people shaming.
I get that
you've got supply and demand, right? The demand is there. Now the supply has moved in, and everybody's all up in arms about it.
And the internet makes it overly accessible.
No, we've been all up in hands about it.
The deal is we've
exactly.
You mean this?
I mean, okay. So if you're gonna approach the concept of men doing this behavior, like we do and have shamed men for being the same type of promiscuous as women in the past.
Show us your browser history.
We do demonize this behavior. Granted, there are groups of men that are like, "Oh, good job, buddy, you got another one," or some shit like that. But for the higher quality men, we do tend to shame this behavior out of our groups and our social circles. We don't like this behavior. We don't agree with it. We think it's bad behavior. And so, we do.
There are entire subgroups of the right wing saying that you should bag 50 chicks before you try to get married.
Exactly.
I understand what the red pill society is. I understand that. I'm not discounting that. I even said there are sects of society that are saying that that's a good thing. What I'm saying is, me personally, like she was asking, would I hold men accountable for the same thing? Yes, I absolutely fucking would. If there was a law, then I would be like, awesome, we have a law for both.
I will say like one thing when it comes to like shaming males being promiscuous. Like there are certain countries where if you say I'm going there, like there's a certain level of shame. Like if a man says I'm going to Thailand, some people will give him the side eye because that's a major place for sex tourism. Like
and ladyboys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like ladyboys, Evan Lord?
No.
Why did you
I mean,
laugh?
you also have the entire group of guys that all they do is enjoy the women on the internet and fill up buckets in their basement while they do so.
That's bad too.
And I mean, like you could say that is a downside to it. And I know you could blame that all on men too, but what's the point? It's literally over accessibility leads to over chafed ding dongs.
Here we go again. So you guys are choosing whether to blame the supply or the demand, and it seems that the guys always seem to come on the side of the supply, right? You guys are constantly blaming the supply instead of the demand.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the market is determined by the demand.
Before you guys unfairly phrase things, please understand, all right? There was a number
I haven't even started on you and your misguiding rhetoric or Orwellian fucking speak.
Hold on. There's a number of prompts that were given, and they chose one of their own prompts, and this was their own prompt that they chose. Okay, we didn't choose to talk about females specifically. They did. We just agreed
hold on. We had a whole conversation about it. You guys listed that as one of the options, and we both agreed that.
I thought it was one of yours. I didn't have it as one of mine.
I'm pretty sure Paige wrote it.
That's right.
No, it could be.
This is for Mater Mama.
In fact, it was encouragement of promiscuity.
The framing
was
Mater Lady.
Yeah, the framing that was chosen was all done by you, not specifically us.
No, again, Paige wrote the exact prompt.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat now. Paige did it.
Hang on, Coder.
Take that, Paige.
See it.
Coder,
I never said that. Like we had a bunch of prompts you guys could choose from. We chose that one. Yeah, you could have argued broad promiscuity. I would have been fine with that too.
What Paige actually had was
hang on,
is
50.
encouragement of promiscuity good for society, not female specific. Y'all chose
and
female
then she changed
specific.
it. She changed it. No, we didn't. She changed it to that when she selected it. When we
let
agreed to
me-
those two prompts.
Who cares?
Allow
We
me
could argue
to
both. We already
interrupt
demonstrated
for
that.
We don't care. He's the one who brought it up.
Yeah, he's just accusing us of selecting it.
Exactly.
Let me interrupt for some logistics really quick. I'm going to shut down the Raging Tomatoes show here in about 2 minutes. We're all moving over to the Gauntlet, same show, different channel. The raid is turned on, so if you don't go, it should raid you. But if you want to go ahead and get a head start in the chat and start having your fun over there, start heading over now. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Damn, you're expensive, Sarah.
Sorry.
Classy broads usually are more expensive.
Cleaner, when you use the term misguiding rhetoric like 7 times tonight, were you just basically like saying that they were bad faith the whole night and intentionally like trying to obfuscate what their position was?
No, I didn't say that in a monolithic term. I said they were using misguided rhetoric. I didn't say that everything they said was misguiding rhetoric.
So basically just because they don't
like
believe
over
what
and
you
over.
believe, everything that they say is misguiding rhetoric because you have the truth and they're misguiding away from what you say, which is the truth, right?
No, yet again, someone's using misguiding rhetoric.
Yeah.
I wasn't at all. See, what you're doing is trying to infer things from your belief standard based off of what I was saying.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
what most
doesn't
people do.
necessarily mean that that's what I was saying. I tend to say exactly what I mean to say. Granted, I might on occasion miss a word or whatnot, right? I mean, that happens, but I tend to say what I mean to say. So my words are actually the words that I'm
talking.
If you try and frame, like, if I say the sky's fucking blue and you're like, yeah, but there's some people who don't see blue, so all they'll see is like a hollow sky.